Hey, what's happening? What's happening? Welcome back to the show. We are very excited. I'm at least very excited. Very excited. James from My Take on Reality, and
Jenny from Senior Perspective.
there it is. There it is. Hit it off all in one try. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? All right. So we hopefully everybody had a good week. You had a good week, Jenny.
I had a great week, James. Thank you. How
There
about
you go.
yours?
It was excellent. It was excellent. I made it to Sunday, so that I
There
count
you
that as a win
right.
always.
That's all we can say, right? Every day's a blessing.
Right, exactly. I just count them as I get them. I don't, I don't do
Right.
too much future planning, but I take what I can get. But I'm very excited actually to talk about this particular chapter because this is one of the chapters where we actually start to get into one of what I would call one of the more infamous, villainous sister wives or cast members of this particular program. Of course, we're talking about the Big notorious Big Rob Dog. you know, Robyn Brown, the one who's coming to take your man. So hide your kids, hide the wife. so so I'm very excited, very excited. Before we get started, as always, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I also want to thank the moderators who are holding it down for us. These guys are making the streams a lot easier on us because while we're doing it, we don't have to, try to fix and monitor what's going on in the chat. We can actually relax a little bit while they take care of things. So thank you guys for doing that. Thank you guys in advance for staying super cool and super chill in the chat. Because as I've always said, YouTube is a place for fun. People come here to relax. We're not trying to cause no problem.
That's right.
You should not be stressed out going on YouTube. After all, this ain't Facebook. So
That's right.
yeah.
Yes. That's why I always tell my people too. This should be fun, people. If this is not fun, you should go find something that's going to make you happy because we should be here
Right.
having a good time.
Yeah, because this is not, it's not the move.
That's right.
But there is a lot. Like, what are your first thoughts? Like, I gotta say, like, what are your first thoughts when it comes to this particular chapter? Like, we're talking about the chapter dealing with sorority. Robyn, I believe, is chapter 8 in the book. For those who are following along with the actual book, what did you think about this chapter and how it kind of unfolded? Like, what was your
James,
gut
look
reaction?
at all of my notes. All the pages are marked up and written on the side, plus my notes here. I mean, what do I think? Robyn is the gift that keeps on giving. That's what I think. She, it's a chapter a little bit reminiscent of Mary's in that there's a lot of defensiveness in this, where she's really, you can tell, as we've been told in the past, that the wives all wrote their own chapters and then they shared, and then they had the opportunity to tweak theirs. So you can clearly see the defensiveness from stuff that she read from other places to try to explain and justify and put herself as the victim in all of this. And there's a reason for everything. And most of them either make no sense or are complete lies.
Right. And at the end of the day, we must not forget it is not my fault.
That's right.
That's pretty much what I read from the whole thing. Is like, no matter what happened, it's not my fault. I don't know what these crazy women are thinking, but that's them because it's not my fault. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm a little bit like, when I was going through it, I'm kind of like you. I was like, what the hell? Like,
yeah.
Apparently she was deep, and I had heard this before that she was real deep into the. It wasn't Instagram, I believe it was Twitter, where she would log on and they would air the show, and her and Cody would watch the show, and they would go on and try to defend what people were talking about on Twitter. And she was getting roasted so bad she quit Twitter. Like, she just blocked all her accounts and then dropped off Twitter.
Yeah,
and in fact, I think she just kind of made a reemergence back on like Pinterest or something like that, where she makes posts. But aside from that, she stays well away from a lot of social media, which I can understand because it is kind of hard when you're talking about your life and what people think about what you're doing. So
I get it too, but James, do you think that maybe, as opposed to, I'm going to shut it down and not read it, that possibly there could be some reflection involved?
right.
And like, if everybody's saying this, could they all be wrong? Or maybe do I need to change my behaviors in some ways?
Right. Which is ironic too, because I'm gonna put a pin in that because it's something that she says later on in the chapter, where she talks about like a personal responsibility and making sure that you address things as they come up. So I agree. Like at some point, you got to kind of look at yourself. Like especially, I'm not trying to throw any stones, but if you are in a situation where you've been married, like just for say, you've been married 4 or 5 times, and each one of your spouses, exes, says the same thing as to why the relationship didn't work. It might not be them. I'm just saying, like, like if you're on Twitter and 20,000 people jump on and say, yeah, when you did X, Y, Z, you were wrong. And you say, well, they don't know what they're talking about. But it's like out of 20,000 people, 19,998 said you were wrong. 2 of them said, "Go, you go, girl."
Yeah.
You might want to step back. So
It's
I agree.
so
Like,
true.
that was a good opportunity.
Yeah. I think the 2 of them just sit at home and tell each other they're right.
Right.
It's us against the world. It's us against the family. It's us against the world. And we know, and we're right, and nobody else understands because they're not living here. And then I guess all the stuff we see on TV is just not true. I mean, yeah, we don't have the whole story, but with the part we see, we don't like.
Right.
Those were your words and those were your actions. So unless you had a part that we missed where you said, we're going to act all this and none of it's true, unless that's the part we missed, we still saw something and it wasn't so great. Yeah.
You know what? There was a guy who did a radio show. I forget the name of it. It was like Star and Buckwild or something like that. The name of the show. It was like years ago. And I didn't really care for the guy too much, but I did catch one episode, and I guess it's very fortuitous I caught this one episode, where he said, when we first started the show, he was talking to, I guess, his partner who played like the bad guy on the show. He said, when we started this talk show or this radio program, we agreed that you were going to be the bad guy. You agreed to that. Now, a lot of people are writing in or they're calling in and they're giving you a hard time and you're angry about it. And he said, that's what you agreed to do. And that's what made the show successful. So I don't understand why you're upset about it. And to that, I would say the same thing to Robyn and Cody. If this isn't your life and you're pretending everything that was going on and you played the bad guy on the show, because it's cast as a reality show, you can't be upset that people think you're the person that they see on Sunday night when the show airs. You can't be angry about that because that's how you put bread on your table and a roof over your head. That's what you signed up to do. If you sign up to be the bad guy, you're the bad guy. Now, I can understand, like, if you're a Christopher Walken or somebody who normally plays a bad guy, and somebody walks up to you in the supermarket and starts yelling at you, you Anthony Hopkins, and they're like, you're a horrible person for what you did to Clarice and Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal Lecter. That's a character. I get that. And you would be wrong. Or Denzel Washington, we'll put cases on all y'all. Like, no, Denzel, you were wrong. No, that's Denzel Washington. That's not, I forget the guy's name, Antonio, whatever, from that movie Training Day. Yeah. I get that. But if you're on a reality show, people won't think that you're that person. So if you're playing a character, you got to suck it the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, just turn off the notices on Twitter. Just don't go on Twitter anymore because they're going to roast you. You're getting drugged.
What you don't know won't hurt you, Robyn, because if you do know it, it will hurt you.
But I did see a lot of this stuff, like I said, just to even get into it, because there's a whole lot. Like, unfortunately, like you said, there's, like, you could write all kinds of notes. I got all kinds of notes, excerpts. Like, I don't even know if we're going to get to everything I want to get to during the course of this podcast, because we'll be up to like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
Just
I
with
know.
everything
And
that's
it's not
it's
even
so
that
petty.
long, but it's
No,
just, it's loaded. It's like one sentence after the next. It's like, what? What are
right,
you
right.
saying? What? Yeah,
It,
it's crazy.
I think it was you. I'm pretty sure it was you who said that. Like, apparently they didn't have anybody read this over. You know, because when I read through this chapter, I could see that. Apparently, they didn't have anybody read this over because if they had said, like, she ran half these stories past
Mhm,
somebody else other than Cody, maybe, and said, "This is what happened." That
mhm.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
That means
I
that
would just,
everything was up.
I wanna be a fly on the wall the day that the book came out and the OG3 sat and read it all the way through. Now Mary comes off okay in all of this, but
Mm,
Christine and Janelle, when they sat and read it, I mean, I'm sure they were just like, "What? What?"
you're right.
She
What
comes
did she
from a
say?
different angle, like, she's very extremely defensive and in some cases on the offensive, and it's just, and most of it is just lies, like, and we know that from her, that when she gets defensive she lies, like, oh, Cody didn't have a ring on, he never had, he got rid of his ring before I ever met him, and then we see his ring all over the
Mhm.
time, so
Right, right.
when she gets cornered, and I feel like I'd love to know the time frame when they were looked at each other's and then they tweak their own stuff before they set it in. It just seems like she stayed up really late one night and just started, I'm going to respond to this and I'm going to respond to that this
Right,
person
right.
says, and I'm going to respond to this, and just threw it all in there. It doesn't make sense. I did hear, somebody told me once that Robyn said she actually edited it because she had experience in English or something. I don't know. She doesn't know college. I mean, she said she tried to take a chemistry class once, but like, I don't understand where that came from, except like maybe she just touted herself because she's such a great linguist and communicator.
Right, right,
We
right.
hear that a lot in this chapter,
Well, you
how
know what?
great she is.
Because yeah, right. I was amazing. Well, but like the
Mhm,
one thing that I think that I could see her saying, or at least pushing herself out as the editor in chief of this
mhm,
particular work, because ultimately she could shape charge anything that comes out,
mhm,
especially if it comes out against her. Like
mhm,
she can, no, no, we don't need to say that because it's going to make people look bad or make target some of the members of the family, meaning her.
mhm,
So we
mhm,
need to leave this part out the book. How you guys didn't necessarily look forward to me, and I
mhm,
can even see it like with Christine's last portion of her chapter, where it was a lot of flowery words towards her relationship with
yeah,
Robyn and being thankful that Robyn came into the family and how awesome Cody was.
yeah.
So I can see a lot of that.
Right, which
Uh,
really seemed disjointed from the rest of that chapter too. It was just kind of
right.
out of left field all of a sudden. It's not that like she was throwing mud and then saying something nice. It wasn't disjointed that way, but it was disjointed in that it just didn't flow with how the chapter was going. It was like, and then all of a sudden we have this final paragraph about how great Robyn is and how I really want to repair and make it great and all this stuff. And it was just kind of like, what did this come from? And then that's the end. So it did seem like, well, there's a little addendum at the end that
Right,
Robyn
right.
encouraged her to write, and maybe Robyn changed it a little bit even. Who knows?
Yeah, right. All right. And let me help you. I'll use a little that flair. But the first thing that I think I wanted to point out was actually start from the beginning, where it
Mhm,
said that where Robyn kind of talks a little bit about the family finances, where she says, even though we had no money to get married, Cody dreamed of a big fancy wedding.
mhm,
It's his view that
mhm,
since polygamists marry so often, they don't value the marriage ceremony and the reception as they should. They
mhm,
don't do enough to make the day special. For the
mhm,
most part, polygamous weddings are humble. Cody swore that when he and I married, it was going to be a big deal.
mhm,
So, as with
mhm,
most of the this particular chapter, you get the sense of it's not me, and that's basically what it is. I didn't have anything to do with
yeah,
deciding to have this big, huge wedding that celebrated my
mhm,
union with Cody and my entrance into the Brown family. It's not me. It's
yeah,
Cody. Cody wanted this, and I
mhm,
just kind of went along with it.
yeah.
So,
She's just,
I mean,
Poor thing. She didn't want anything to do with it, which she goes on to
Right.
then say too. But yeah, that whole paragraph, I like circled every single word. Cody, Cody, his.
Right.
Like this was all everything about this big wedding, all Cody. I
Right.
wanted
Right.
absolutely nothing to do with it. Mm-mm.
And that was a big thing too, because that would have been because, like you intonated earlier, that would have been one of the big things that would have been talked about at the time on Twitter about how unfair it would have been for them to have this huge ceremony for her, where she's being celebrated, she's coming into the family. They're not only having this big wedding, they're having a big honeymoon, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the other wives, like Mary had a pretty decent sized wedding. Her wedding wasn't as big and as expensive as the one Robyn had, but she had a big wedding.
Yeah.
Brown wise, she had a big wedding.
Yeah.
Janelle had a dinner. Christine, Cody barely got all work to
That's right.
have her wedding.
He barely made it to the wedding. Yeah.
Right, right. So, I mean, the idea that it's all Cody and the fans, God love them. These cats, yeah. If they don't know, like they are on it. Like when it comes to a lot of the detective work, running stuff down, they remember a lot of the things that's put out. So it's
Mhm.
exceedingly difficult for Robyn to come back and try to redraft history to a lot of the people who have been paying attention, paying close attention from the very beginning. And that's
Yeah.
where I think that when Robyn kind of fell afoul of a lot of the fans, she fell further afoul of those same fans because not only did she do the thing that they didn't like, but she went back and lied about not doing the thing that they saw her do. And then she told them that you saw me do it, you know I did it, but stop believing your lying ass eyes because I'm telling you that I didn't do it, and you supposed to believe what I tell you. And that's why she is having such a difficult time. You know.
Mhm.
But what did you have a perspective on that? Because it's so crazy. Like that just stuck right out to me when I was like, well, first of all, you talking about you don't have any money, and then when TLC is talking about throwing this big shindig, I might have said to TLC if it was me, hey TLC, instead of you guys kicking all that big money on this particular wedding, we could find a reasonable venue, we could find a reasonable thing.
Mhm.
But how about we kick a little bit more money to the bonus so I could maybe take care of my kids and do something for the family?
Mhm.
you know. But
Yeah.
I guess that's
I
not the
wrote
way it
that
works.
exact thing down when I was writing about this section. I just thought, okay, um, TLC says, okay, we're going to have this. And we can go back and look at the timeline as to when the wedding happened and why, and when we couldn't do that also. But TLC in the end says, well, we'll help fund your wedding. So here's some money that we can put towards that.
Mhm.
That didn't necessarily mean she had to use every single one of those
Right.
dollars that they were earmarking for, this particular wedding. We didn't have to go with the big fancy cake and the expensive dress and the live butterflies that were crystallized or whatever in their hair and like all these over the top expenses, big photo shoots and everything along with it. She took the money and threw it in the face of the other three wives. And she knew what kind of weddings they had, just like she knew what kind of honeymoons they had. She's very much aware of everything that was going, but we just sort of plead dumb and ignorant here and just be
Mhm.
like, oh, I just thought by including them that they would be okay with everything. I didn't know that this was
Right.
going to
Right.
be an issue and a problem. And I just think, like here's another example. Like when my daughter was looking for a wedding venue,
Right.
yes, there were venues that had chandeliers and pillars and all this kind of stuff. That's not who she is. She's in veterinary school right now. She
Uh,
wanted something that was country and had trees and a lake and like that is who she is. So,
mhm.
I see this as as the bride, that's what you do. My older daughter did the exact same thing. Her and her husband are big hikers and they love the outdoors. And she said, no matter what, her venue just had to have like trees behind it, like lots of trees. So it looked like woods, either deciduous or evergreen. She didn't care. It just needed, that's the scene that matched who they were as people. So this is Robyn coming out of the gate saying, this is who I am, everybody, as I marry into this family. I'm choosing to use every penny, including Cody's. Well, that helped them move closer so she could plan the wedding, the big wedding she needed to plan. Cody's check, and we can get that later too, and her tax return to pay for the house. But I just, as I was reading it, I'm like, it doesn't, just because you can doesn't mean you have to. And so that really irked me. And you have a really good point that it's like, well, if TLC was willing. And what I also wrote down in my notes is, so, it was another one of the 98,000 weddings we've seen on TLC and other channels that you go through that they planned. It would have been so nice to see a wedding that was done as the rest of the people who are in the AUB community do, or just general polygamous families. Like, I would do anything to go back and actually see what Christine's wedding looked like and the venue that was in, more details. We see a little bit of Mary's from the video camera of them dancing, but you really don't get a good feel for exactly how many people were there and how it worked. And I understand that the cameras can't show the actual ceremony because they find it as sacred, but that's okay. We didn't see her ceremony either. We just saw this big fancy reception. And I just feel like it's disingenuous to who they really were as people at that time, which was really poor, but also modest in their ceremonies that they did. So it wasn't a good representation. I feel like TLC shot themselves in the foot by saying, we'll fund it. Let's do a big wedding. I don't know. Maybe because they couldn't, TLC did it just because they would have gotten married earlier and then it wouldn't have been on the show. And they just thought, oh, it'll be great to throw a wedding on the show. But just like they got still shots and videos from the other wives from 15 years ago, certainly there would have been enough stuff that they could have put together and done a montage and had a lot of breakouts and people talking that they could have still made a season out of it. I just feel like it's not how most people do it. We're watching the show to see sister wives. And that's what intrigued me. Like, I don't understand these people. This is nothing I would ever choose. Who would choose this? Why would they choose it? What is the philosophy and the thinking behind everything? That's what intrigued me about the show. So to throw out this wedding, it's not how they do it. But
Right. Well, it's the monogamous tie-in wedding, because that's how monogamous do it. Go broke.
Exactly. That was a monogamous wedding right there. Yeah.
Right. And that's Christine M. We spent around $50,000 on our wedding for 50 guests. If I could do it again, I'd just go to the courthouse.
Yes.
I agree with that. One of the piece of advice, well, I won't say piece of advice, but one of the things that I've observed, and somebody had told me when I was a young man, that when you come up with your wedding list, come up with a wedding list of people that you would take out to a really expensive dinner. And if you have no problem picking up the tab for them to eat, they should be on your wedding list. If you would not take them out to an expensive dinner and pick up the tab, no problem, no fuss, no muss, then they should not appear on your wedding list. They don't need to be at your wedding. They can get a postcard, they can get a picture. And that's just kind of how it works. It's an intimate thing that you don't have to invite the world to. But there's a point that I think is interesting. Like one of the things that we talked about, like even the idea of them taking some of the money or receiving the money from TLC, taking a portion of the money, using it towards the wedding, and then using a portion of it for the betterment of the family. That actually reminds me of the music industry, because typically the way that works is you hear about advances. The way the advance works is that the record company will contract an artist. They get the baby or whoever, Travers or whoever, and they get this artist and they say, "Hey, Mr. 123 Hopscotch, I want you to make a record for me. Here's money for you to take get everything you need, whether it's the studio time, producers, engineers, people who are going to mix it, the musicians, whatever you need to do. Here's $1 million, and you come back with a record. And then at the end of it, when you give me the record, we're going to sell the record, and you're going to pay me back off the front of the record. So I'll get my money back off for the sales." And typically what a lot of them guys do, especially some of the rap artists, they take that advance and they go buy jewelry. And In the same way, those rap artists can go out and buy a gang of jewelry or a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense, clothes, put it on houses or whatever the case may be. Go down to the strip club. The same way they do that, the Brown family could have took some of that money and put it on themselves. The second thing it reminded me of when you were talking about representing how you actually live, that actually reminds me of, speaking more in turn, this is probably going to show a little bit of my age, but there was a show on MTV right around the time they stopped showing music videos. On MTV, it was called Cribs. And what they would do is a lot of the artists would actually go out and rent houses so that when the people from Cribs show up to see how they live, what they would see is a house that was rented that these people, like, so when they were opening up refrigerators, they had no idea what was in those refrigerators. They had no clue. They didn't know how half the stuff in the house worked because they didn't live there. And that's where I think that, like you were saying, it gives you that false impression of what you think their life or lifestyle is going to look like. But this has nothing to do with how they actually live, because this isn't reminiscent to anything that happens in their church. Nobody in the church is taking on a fourth wife, having this type of wedding. So I think that's an excellent point.
Right, right. And along with what Christian said about the courthouse, there's rumors that this upcoming season has a vow renewal with Cody and Robyn. And I just think, shoot me right now. I do not need to see a third wedding on TLC of Cody and Robyn. We suffered through this whole long one, which was an entire episode. Then we had practically the entire episode all about them just going to the courthouse and having their private, no cameras allowed, which I don't agree with, because if the cameras were allowed in that same courthouse for when the kids were adopted, and those are children and minors, and this is a custody case, how would they not be there for a marriage when most people bring photographers to take a picture? Because this is their wedding that they're having. So don't believe that whatsoever, that they weren't allowed in there. I just think it was, Cody and her saying no, because they didn't want cameras there. It was going to be special for the two of them. They managed to kick Mary by the curbside. And then once it was just the two of them, they told the cameras not to be there also. But now we're going to have to suffer through another wedding of Robyn and Cody. I mean, I'm not up for it. I just think that's bad programming. Unless TLC is like, they're just trying to punk them. Like, yeah, you guys do it because this is going to be, people are going to be talking about this forever.
This is going to be horrendous. Good for us, bad for them. This is going to be good content, but it's going to be bad for them.
It's going to be, yeah. People are going to start tuning in because it's going to be all over social media how upset everybody is about having to watch another wedding of Robyn and Cody.
They're doing another one. But I think that that second wedding, my feeling was always this. And I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody, so this is an exclusive. I think when it comes to that second wedding, the reason why the cameras didn't go in is because they didn't get married that day. Yes, they excluded Mary. Yes, they excluded the rest of the family, but Robyn's kids were there. I think when she went back and they did their whole vows and they basically legalized their marriage, her kids were there because there's no way that she was going to get married without her kids being present. And I don't think that she would have involved the other. Because if she would have brought Mary, then the other wives could want to go and then other kids could want to go. But there's no reason why Robyn wouldn't bring her kids in. And I don't think that she would have bent to Cody's will in saying that she's not going to include her kids. Because she was dead on with her kids being there. She didn't care whether Mary came or not. Because Mary had already outlived. And Mary, if you're watching this, I apologize, but I just kind of got the feeling that you outlived your usefulness. I'm sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were expired at that point. So
yeah, that was it. That was the expiration date right there. That courthouse date.
Yeah, she didn't need you anymore. So, so now you can't go to the wedding. But there was another part of it. I had Tyler, because I some of the excerpts, as I pull them out, I'll give them little titles or whatever so I know what I'm talking about when I look at it. And I titled this Sensitive to Sister Wives. And wait, hold on. There we got a thing from Erica MF. Hopefully the wedding doesn't take 4 episodes. Who you telling? I don't want to see the prep. I agree with you, Eric, 100%. I don't want to see the prep. I don't want to see them talking about it. I don't want to see them planning it. I don't want to see the wedding. I really don't want to see the wedding, to be honest with you. I don't really care. Because you guys are already together. You already had the big wedding where you just basically LARP a wedding couple where you were pretending to be married. Okay, fine, because you were actually boyfriend and girlfriend because Cody already had a wife,
Mm-hmm.
legally. But then
Mm-hmm.
you got married legally
Mm-hmm.
at the courthouse. So what else is there to do? Oh, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to reaffirm our love for one another. But nobody ever questioned whether you guys were committed to one another. That's
Oh,
never been a question. That's never been a question. Whether you like the other women, now that was a question.
right.
That was the question everybody had. But
Right. Can you
I'm not
imagine?
100%
I don't even want it to take one episode. Like if they
right.
have an entire episode just dedicated to that, like I don't think I can suffer through it, quite frankly. I really don't. I'm gonna be like, watch it on your own and we'll just have a live chat. You tell me what happened. Because I'm just not, I don't think I can do it.
I can't do it. I think it'll be like maybe a quarter episode. But the fact that they have to do it, I think this is one of the conditions that Robyn and Cody put on TLC since Christine got her whole wedding put on
Mhm.
TV. So
Mhm.
this is kind of that competition. And it's funny because the two people who complain the most about jealousy, envy, and trying to duplicate everybody else and do comparisons is now playing that same game. That's the part that's weird.
Mhm.
It shows you
Mhm.
how serious they were about it. But I call this the sensitive to sister wives. We got engaged at the end of September, and this is Robyn talking about when she got married and why they decided to get married at the time they got married. She
Yeah.
said we got engaged at the end of September, and I was hoping that we could find a way to be married by December, the latest. Now, well, by December, wow. Wow, that is bad. Like, okay, grammar's not really there, but okay, we're gonna keep rolling through it. My future sister wives are unhappy with this plan. When I discovered this, I knew. And that's my favorite part. When I discovered this, I
Mhm.
knew that I was going to have to be incredibly sensitive to their feelings and wishes as I plan my wedding. Right? So you have her making plans to get married in December.
Mhm.
December. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know about y'all, but I have a lot of stuff going on in December, especially when it comes to my finances.
Mhm.
Especially if you already have, hell, I only have two children, right? I have two kids. So I only have to really worry about buying for those two kids and my wife and maybe closer family members. I
Mhm.
don't have 18 children to,
Mhm.
to sit there and figure out how I'm gonna do presents for and try to plan a wedding on top of it. That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's insanity. But
Yeah.
what did you think about their plans as far as getting married and the timing of
Um, well, to go along with that, if Robyn would just have done a normal polygamous AUB wedding,
it?
she
Mm-hmm.
could have done it like the first weekend because she wanted the big grandstand thing. She said back in September she learned that the show was, picked up. And so it's
Paid
like,
for it,
oh,
right?
well, wait. So she like drops the hint that she knew about it and then said, well, I wanted to get it done by December, but I couldn't. In
Mm.
the back of her mind, because she knew, although she's saying she didn't find this out till later, but she knew that if she held off, that TLC would fund something big and elaborate for
Right,
Cody. All right.
right.
So we're not doing it in December. All right. So let's just go with, okay, could have done it in December, first weekend of December, second, no big deal because it's supposed to be just a small little get together of the immediate family with a
Right.
cake and a minister or whatever, whoever they have, prophet or
It's a
whatnot.
dinner. Yeah, it's a
Could have
dinner.
been, could have been done. But let's just say, okay, we're going to be conscientious. It's true. Lots of kids, December. Although, let me point this out too, though. They weren't celebrating Christmas back then. Robyn's the one that
Mm-hmm.
brought the holidays to the family. They said Cody didn't want anything to do. It was all commercialized. So all they did was each kid picked a name. They did the exchange thing, and it was very low key. And their big holiday was Joseph Smith. So if that were true, then this is a lie, one of
Mm.
many that are in this chapter, that she couldn't do it at the beginning of December, because obviously she's not going to do it at the end of December. She couldn't do it at the beginning of December, because they may have still been in that mode of Christmas is really just another day, but we'll do something because it's, culturally something part of America. All right. But it gets better. It gets so much better because she goes on to say, so she thought January would be a good time to do it. But wait, no, we can't in January because it's Mary's birthday, Janelle's anniversary, and Dayton's birthday. All right, let's pause for a second. I love how she ordered them just that way. Mary's birthday, Janelle's anniversary, Dayton's birthday. Dayton's birthday and Mary's birthday are the same day. There was that whole scene where Mary was hoping that one of her children would be born on that day too, because already Dayton was born. And, she wanted another child to celebrate her birthday, and her and Dayton always do something special together on that day. Because we had a whole episode about that. So I don't know what she said. So of course, now that episode came out after the book came out. But so really, we just have 2 dates in January to contend with. So I'm like, all right, well, at the beginning, at the end, maybe they didn't want to squeeze it in the middle. January 16th, January 17th are like right next to each other. These 2 days are back to back. So this would be the same weekend that they would be celebrating it anyway. Whole month is out because we have a birthday and an anniversary on this one weekend. That's it. So I'm like, oh my gosh, she makes it sound like it's this all these events we couldn't possibly. No, a birthday and an anniversary. And we know Janelle's anniversary was the day after Mary's birthday because we heard that earlier in the book. And when it was going to be on Mary's birthday. Wouldn't that have been funny if she would have listed those separately? They would have all been the same day. So then she goes on and says, and we had the same kind of thing in February. And so I thought, well, let me look up and see how many things. One thing, Hunter on February 9th has a birthday.
Wow.
No one else has a birthday, no anniversaries. So that line is another lie. We had the same thing happen in February. What? A birthday happened? Well, there's a birthday in the month, I'm sure. They said every single month except for September, there's a birthday in the Brown family. So I'm reading that just seething with anger. Going, lies. These are all lies. Why is she putting herself in this position? How dumb is she? This can be fact checked. It doesn't take that long to figure out that literally there was one weekend in January and one day in February that were taken up. But no, those whole months were out. And then she found out about the TLC being able, so she didn't want to, but she decided to go ahead and push it off for Cody and TLC to do it. I was so angry. But she does admit, she has this one line here where she says, Cody and I were trying to figure out the best early possible date for our wedding. The television show that he'd been discussing since we got engaged, lies. You knew about it when you were courting. You knew about it before you were courting. We have proof that you knew about it when you were courting. We have a lot of insinuations and lines in this book that indicate you knew about it before you ever met Cody about this. But she claims that this television show that she found out about since they got engaged went from a dream to a reality. And I thought, I'm surprised she put that line in there, because that dream coming to life, she's making it, she's poo-pooing so much stuff. But I felt like, that was the one time she slipped and said, oh yeah, this is a dream. This TV show's coming, and it's a dream that's now coming to life. And because of that, the wedding's going to get pushed off and we're going to put it on television.
Right. And
I wrote on the margin, she's an altruistic martyr.
Right. Yeah, right. I had to sacrifice so much. I had to give up all these things so I could make these big weddings and these big money moves.
So great.
There was one part where it says, because she does the thing where she blames TLC because TLC was going to pay for the wedding. I knew they had a big ceremony meant and it meant the world to Cody. So I consented. I didn't want to do it, but I relented in my position. There's
Yeah.
a second part where I take from what she said as far as that was concerned. If we believe that TLC was going to originally roll out the show and it was going to start primarily or be anchored in the wedding of Robyn and Cody, then and Cody had to go back and try to convince them to include the OG3. That substantiates the point that I had made a while back, where I was saying a position I made a while back, where I had said that I think that the show originally, the intent of the show was to show the love affair and relationship and marriage between Cody and Robyn, right? As far as TLC was concerned, not as far as the fan base or the people who watch the show and enjoy the show were concerned. But when the TLC producers were rolling this show out, they rolled it out as the Robyn and Cody show. This is like the equivalent of it wasn't really the Jackson Five. It was Michael Jackson and the Jackson and his four brothers. So like it was what it was. And I think that the way that they were trying to roll this show out, it didn't make sense. And I agree with the sentiment that was pushed forward. It said, and I think that she might have had did a little role reversal where she was talking about, because the paragraph that I'm talking about was they wanted to open the show with our wedding. Cody and I vehemently objected to this. It would be a grave disservice to Cody's first three marriages or first three wives to feature his wedding to me in the opening episode of the show. I don't think that, and I could be wrong, but I don't think that, and if it's all TLC, then that substantiates more what I'm saying. But even to take away a little bit of that point, I think that could have been a conversation, if it did happen, where it could have been reversed, where Cody and Robyn were the ones saying, we need to open the show with this new marriage so that they can see where we are and we can just open up our world to them. And we're presenting ourselves as this one big unified family. And TLC said, no, if we did that, then you guys will be the villains and everybody's going to hate Robyn off the rip because she's coming in as the usurper into that situation. And that would be a PR nightmare. So I think that that's a possibility too. Where you at in that as far as, was it Robyn and Cody who argued against making the show about Robyn and Cody, or was it TLC wanted the show to be about Robyn and Cody, and Robyn and Cody vehemently disagreed and forced them to turn it into the OG3 show?
I don't know. Here's my intellectual answer. I don't know. I'd written down here, what are you a producer? I like how it's presented as well, we've decided that this is how it needs to go. I'm like, no, you didn't decide.
Right.
I just found it interesting, her perspective in this paragraph, because she's the outlier here. She's not part of the family even yet. So there's no show. And I would imagine, from listening to a lot of these TLC shows and the cast members that are involved in it, and even, is that TLC that has the 5 quintuplet girls on it too? I was listening to an interview with them recently. I think that's TLC. Can't think of the name of the show. I haven't watched this season yet. Someday I'll have to binge it. But I was keeping up with them beforehand. But they said something recently that I've heard a lot of other people say, and that is that when you start off, you don't have a say in really anything. You're just kind of starstruck by it all. And they're like, this is what we're doing. We're going to give you this amount of money and we're going to go like this and we're going to go like that. And that they kind of say, okay, and go along with it. And then as the seasons progress, and in the particular situation with these quints, they ended up just ending it because they kept wanting more time, more in the house, more. And they just kept saying it is not good for our family. So they put an end to the show. The show kept asking him to come back. And after a year or two, they said, okay, but here's our stipulation now. We want to be producers as well, because we we're worried about the integrity of how we're being perceived and how we're being portrayed. We're willing to show drama, but we're going to do it on this terms, and we're only filming 4 days a week, and it's only this many hours a day, because that's what's best for our family. And then TLC said, okay, and they came back with it. So I find it hard to believe, because they literally, they had a popular show, but they literally said goodbye and left TLC until they came back. So I'm thinking that she might be lying, that TLC just kind of said, we have it set up this way. And she said, no, we don't want to do that way. We want to have the rest of the family go first. But I don't know, to be honest with you. Because I kind of flip-flop back and forth, but I just that story is what made me think maybe she's just lying about that. Because here's the other part, James. Like, if they had this big argument going back and forth about, we can't open up with it, we can't do that, we have to show the family in that, there was only one episode before Robyn came in. So It's not like they did half the season of really showing the family of, like, here we're doing this and this is how we do that. It was one episode, one very awkward episode where clearly everybody was staring and trying to avoid the camera, but kind of looking at the camera and giggling. And season 1, episode 1 is so uncomfortable to watch because they're all so uncomfortable on it. Mary was the worst. Like, she did not have a poker face. She's like, hi, good morning. It was just, they got so much better at just being natural and kind of trying to forget that the cameras were there over time. But at the beginning, it was very difficult for them. So I didn't feel like episode 1 really taught me anything about the family other than the names of everybody and who's assigned to which wife and what's the logistics of the housing situation. It was just, 40 minutes of content, but there are so many people to learn and meet in that in episode 1. And then boom, episode 2, there's Robyn right away. So she really was there essentially at the beginning. I don't know.
Well, because I can see a scenario where, you can always try to renegotiate anytime, even when you apply for a job. So, my daughter, like, you go for a job, you the money that they talk about giving you, money, hours, benefits, etc. All of that is negotiable. And technically, if you're at a position where you're being recruited, they actually have a recruiter hiring you, and you're talking to them, dealing with them. Their job, literally, is to try to give you as little money and as few benefits as possible. So it's kind of the onus is on you for applying for a job to try to get as much money as you possibly can, or benefits, whatever, or try to offset it with days off or whatever. With that being said, coming into a TV show like this, especially a show that they don't know whether it's going to work or not, like, it's easy to sit back after, 3 or 4 or 5 seasons, I think, because she talks about having Solomon by this time. So you're talking about being about 4 or 5 seasons in to the relationship, into the show, before you come out with the book and you come out with these hero stories. So it's easy to sit around and talk about how you could have did this and you had this negotiation. You told them you absolutely would not do this, because quiet is kept. You had the guy from My Five Wives, his family, they were actually supposed to be the original Sister Wives family. They were also talking to the Duggars, not the Duggars, the
Darkers.
The Dargers, the Darger family. They were talking to them about being the Sister Wives family. So it's not like they only were talking to the Brown family and that was their only choice. And if they decided not to do it, then they were going to lose the show. Like, they had a ton of people that they could have put on the show. There's actually a guy who was on Seeking Sister Wives. He's Aspen's brother-in-law. Aspen's husband's brother-in-law, because his sister married into Seeking Sister Wives people. But they talked to him about being on the show. So there's a whole bunch, and these are just the people I know about. So I don't see them really having a whole lot of, because it all comes down to leverage. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so if you have a hit show, then you have leverage. If you got booty, because you standing there and you haven't been on, they haven't shot a pilot yet, or they shot the pilot. And even a pilot, like you said, is kind of sketchy. I can duplicate this. I don't need you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even kind of going back to the music industry. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why all the music sounds the same now,
Mm-hmm.
because they can replace people. Whereas
And they
before they
not
couldn't.
only, James, don't have leverage, but this family doesn't have brains. You know, like if
Right,
someone
right,
came to you and said, "We want to do a reality show on a content creators and we want to follow and all that,"
yeah,
I feel like, James, you would stand up and say, "Okay, here are my terms."
right, right.
Like
I'll
you
probably
would,
say no because I got to
yeah,
do a
right.
reassessment of myself.
Yeah, but
Because
if
if they
they
want to do a
throw out,
show,
all right, it's gonna be 500 grand and it's gonna be, you're like,
right,
all right, well, let's start talking.
right, right. We can talk about it, but I got to go home and start doing interviewing people. Like, what do they
Yeah,
know that I don't know? Because obviously they see something.
right, right.
Somebody is cheating. Somebody going to jail.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I want
They
to
know
find
more
out.
than you do about your family.
Right, right. Apparently, somebody been talking, so we need to have a conversation. You know, it's like a Maury call your house. Hey, buddy, would you
Big
like to come to
family
the show?
meeting, yes.
Right.
Family meeting
Apparently, we
on
need to go to
Saturday at
Walmart to get
James's
that.
house. We're getting
Right,
this ironed
exactly.
out before Monday when they're coming back again.
So we can have a combo.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
but I
true.
mean, I agree. You got to sit down and have that conversation. And I don't.
Right.
And there is a point with them approaching this particular family because of the financial situation that they were in. Like,
Mhm.
and this is something that even I talked again. I talked to my daughter about, like, if you out looking for jobs, you never want to find yourself in a situation where you're desperate for a job or a position, because they can take advantage of your desperation in how they employ you and how they give you work.
Mhm.
They can all of a sudden, I'll give you the job, but you got to be willing to come in on your days off with no
Mhm.
pay. You know what I mean? Like, if you're
Mhm.
desperate enough, they can get you to do almost anything. I got
Yeah.
a couple super stickers. Tanya Johnson with the $5 super sticker.
Hey,
Thank
Tanya,
you so
thank you.
much. And oh, here we go. Here's the other one. Living an eccentric life, eclectic life. I'm saying
Hectic
eccentric.
life. Yeah.
Living an eclectic life. I can't read anymore. It's terrible. $5 super chat. I enjoy you two so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I am with it too.
Mhm.
Then it was the paying moving costs to Leon. This is something that you had intonated earlier, where you're talking about she writes, and I pulled this excerpt. It says, while I was beginning to plan the wedding, Cody made a large commission on a sign he had
Mhm.
been trying to sell for ages. We
Mhm.
used this money and my tax return to help me and my kids move into my own apartment in Lehigh. This
Mhm.
made planning the wedding infinitely easier. It also allowed me to start developing a closer relationship to my sister wives. Now,
Mhm.
that particular segment or excerpt really hit me because, first of all, when she moved from St. George to Lehigh, she didn't move into an apartment. She
No, she
moved into
calls
a
it an
house.
apartment, but it's not an apartment.
Right. She moved into a house. So what
Mhm.
are you talking about? Like, even that basic stuff. Like, when you talk about, like, just the subtle dishonesty, it's the subtle
Mhm.
dishonesty. Like, even in that, like, everybody knows you moved into a house
Yeah.
around the corner,
Yeah.
down the street around the corner. So why
Yeah.
would you tell the story? Then also the idea that Cody has been trying to sell this big thing, and he got this huge commission by selling this big billboard. And instead of him taking that money and investing it back into his family, who had also been struggling, he decided that he was going to use it to move all of it, apparently, to move his girlfriend down from one place to another place so that she could be closer. I
Mhm.
don't know, sketchy as hell.
Mhm.
Well,
If
what
I
did you
were the
think about that?
OG3, I would not be happy with that. Like, Cody finally is bringing money into the family, and then whoop, nope, Robin's gonna go
Right,
snatch
right.
it, and she's gonna get herself her own place someplace else. And she's completely downplaying it too, and that really bothered me. Didn't she say in there as well something to the effect of, "Oh, it would have been so much better if I would have been like next door or in the house?" And I'm like,
Right, right.
Mel offered Janelle offered for you to move into the house before. I mean, just when you started courting, she offered. No, 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 no. Can't do that.
Right.
Wouldn't be able to. And you know, I think on TV she kind of intimated that it was because it wouldn't be proper, but really in the book she says it's because she wouldn't have the opportunity to truly get to know Cody if she were
Right.
there. And I'm thinking, how do you better get to know somebody than to live in the home with the wives and children that he has? How do I'm like, that there's a lie right there.
Right.
And
Well,
yeah.
unless you wanted, like, her goal was to get to know Cody. Now, we're thinking about it as monogamists. We're being told that we don't understand polygamists, that
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the family. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I think so many of us kind of fall into the trap, because me as well. Because when we look at it, we say, well, it would only make sense that if you want to get to know the family, you want to join the family, that you would move in with the family. Why
Mm-hmm.
would you want to be around the people that you want to join? That
Mm-hmm.
makes more sense to me. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is, she didn't want to get to know them. She
Mm-mm.
wanted to get to know him. And
Yes.
that's why she wanted to move around the corner. So I get where you're going with it. But a big
Yeah.
shout out to Sharon Tiffany, 499 Super Chat. Thank you so much. But
Thank you,
please,
Sharon.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And then she has the nerve later on, she's to say that she was upset that she was someplace else, that she wasn't there with them. She said one other thing. We'll come to it. I'll come to it because there was something that went along. It had something to do with the honeymoon. When we get to it, it'll come to me. But I remember two of them going together and kind of like just justifying how this is all lies on her part and saying that I know the honeymoon had to be 11 days and so long because they were chased up until
Right.
the honeymoon. So they needed 11 days to get it all out, I guess.
Right. To get to know
But I'm
each
like,
other.
there's no way, because I think they were courting for 6
For almost a
months,
year.
and then they were engaged for 8 more. Like, that's a
Right.
whole year of a woman a man who's been married 3 other times and has all these children, a woman who's been married before, has 3 kids, and oh yeah, she got pregnant before she even got married. All right, this is what
Right.
we're dealing with. And we're supposed to believe that they went an entire year where she had her own house and they were chased until the day they went on their honeymoon. Like, I mean, do we look
Well,
stupid?
not only did they have their own house, did she have her own house, but he was staying at her house for at least 2 to 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Every week. So he would leave on Friday. He wouldn't get home till Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you spend the night at the house. 499 Super Chat from Sharon Dippity with love you guys. Most realistic take on Sister Wives. Thank you so much. But yeah, I agree. But there was another part where she had said, when she had talked about the own house, and this is where where she talks about like her getting her own house or her own place in Lehigh, where she says, I know a lot of people probably misinterpreted the fact that I was given my own house as my getting preferential treatment. I know you guys misinterpreted that. So you don't understand, fan, viewer, people who watch the show. You're silly pants. You don't know what's really going on. She goes on to say, this was not the case at all. There was simply no other reasonable option. There was no other reasonable option. And that kind of goes into what you were saying with Chris, where Janelle was offering her a place in her house, which this is not a rich family. Like, and that's the part that I think we always have to kind of go back to. We're not talking about the millionaire Brown family who has been on Sister Wives for 18, going on 19 seasons. This is the broke down Brown family, Buster Brown family, who, eating stale bread not long after trying to figure out how to pay their bills, trying to figure out what they, in order for them to bring Robyn into the family. Cody was talking about selling this car, in order for them to make bills. Robyn or Janelle trying to figure out how to make bills, even admitting on the show from month to month, I don't know how I'm going to do it the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Three
before they bring a whole
bankruptcies.
woman in. Right.
Yeah.
And 3 children into the family with
Mm-hmm.
bankruptcies, on
Mm-hmm.
food stamps. And now you're saying that there was no reasonable option. A reasonable option is you make do.
Yeah.
And that's what normal people do. Like if you have an issue and you say, look, I got, how many people talk about growing up in a certain situation and their parents been able to make $1 out of 15 cents, being able to make that dollar stretch. And all of a sudden they're able to do things with the money that they get in to get it done. So the kids don't ever realize that they don't have it. But at the end of the day, they don't have it. They're just making it work. And that's kind of where the Brown family was. And that's where the OG3 were. And when Robyn comes in, she's making these lofty demands on this family who is already cash strapped. And I think, again, that's where she hits a lot of the fan base the wrong way. Because when they're looking at it, they're saying to themselves, like, this family is struggling. And some folks are like, I know what it's like to struggle. And this is not the face of struggling. This ain't what you do when you're struggling. You don't get 2 apartments, have two separate residents. That's rich folks stuff.
Yeah. It shows right from the get-go how entitled she was, that she could not see half of the side that Mary had as reasonable. Like, it's not like, I mean, she should have been willing to sleep with her kids in sleeping bags in like a bonus room that was in that place. That's what, I mean, that's what I would do if I truly love the man. You make do. You just figure out how to, when I got married, we barely had any money. My husband lived in a 500 square foot condo, studio. Like, we didn't even have a separate bedroom. Like, it was just, and we lived there until we could save up enough money to eventually get to a 1-bedroom condo, and then you save up money until you can eventually get a house. That's just how it works. She had no concept of that whatsoever. There was no sacrifice on her part right from the get-go with this family. And that just spoke volume. She set the precedent right from the beginning to say she pushed back. She was very clear. She was the one that said no, and that she wasn't going to do it. And it was because there's no way her and Cody would have been able to get to know each other. The 11-day honeymoon wasn't going to be enough. So she needed to have her own place. Yeah, she made her bed, and then she needed to lie in it, and she was mad and the victim from that point on, because she had to lie in the bed that she created and that she made right from the very beginning.
Right. Erica MF, $5 super chat. Jenny, stop. You wouldn't sleep on the floor.
Erica, I really would. I'll sleep outside on a tarp in a sleeping bag. I don't even need a tent. I would. If I love the man. I love them. I mean, in this situation, it's just weird because I can't even picture myself in this situation. It's hard to say what I would do there because I would never be in this situation. But I'm just thinking, if I were in a situation where that was the only way I could be with the man that I loved for the next X amount of months, I would, Erica. I would sleep on the floor. I mean, he'd be down there on the floor with me.
Right. Like, he would be in it. You would be on the floor and he's in his wife's bed. Like, that's a subtle difference.
Yeah.
What's wrong with your back, girl? You look like you bent over. He's sleeping on that. You're not even sleeping on the air mattress. He's sleeping on the Serta. But I think but there is a point too where, if you fall in love with somebody, because for me, that speaks more to the fact that I did notion that when you fall in love with somebody, you love them for where they are. Mm-hmm. So if Cody is in a position where she loves him and she wants to marry him and join the family, and he's in a situation where he can't afford to give you the big house, the place around the corner, and pay for your own residence and maintain 2 separate households, technically 4 separate households, because he had little households in that one big household. He can't do all that, but you're that committed to being with him that you'd be willing to make the sacrifices necessary for you two to be together. But if you're not willing to make those sacrifices, then none of that makes any sense, because you're only going to lead that road that you're on would only lead to ruination. And like, I even appreciate the fact that, like, if you move into an apartment and you get the studio apartment, like you were talking about, then all of a sudden you get walls because you get a bedroom. Hey, we big time. We doing it. And it's that those little benchmarks that you hit together, that's what builds your relationship, and that's what builds the strength in your relationship. That's why I said that the OG3's relationship would have been significantly different with Cody than Robyn's relationship, because he built himself up. Everything that he was to where he is now was built during the time that he was with the OG3. They struggled with him, they sacrificed with him. And let's be honest, if you don't have money like that, especially if you have kids and Christmas time is coming and you can't afford to give them the things that you want to give them, there will be tears shed together. And when they're sitting there crying and holding each other and comforting each other, the strength of that relationship is formed then. And when Robyn comes into the family, if she's getting everything that she wants and it's just being handed to her, then you don't necessarily, not saying that their relationship isn't strong, because I don't know. But for me, that relationship doesn't have the same foundational strength as a family, or a family that was formed in that fire of struggle. Like, when you guys are coming up together and you're building together, that you has a strange way of uniting you and making you closer together. There actually is a thing where, just real quick, there's a thing where people in the military, like if you ever go through a boot camp, military police academy, where the instructors have pretty much a rule. They try to make the experience as terrible as they possibly can. Not because they hate the recruits and they're just training the recruits. Part of the reason why they make it so difficult is also for the psychological reason that they want all the people who are there suffering together, doing push-ups, whether it's doing push-ups and goose shit, running through miles and miles and miles in the blazing heat, whatever the case may be, doing a lot of obstacles. They develop a real hate on for the instructor. And that's something that they all can agree on. And so no matter where they come from, their background, whatever it is, they all agree on one thing. This sucks and that guy is a terrible person. And that unites them and helps them bond and form and kind of jumpstarts them into a relationship. So, but what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, that's a perfect story. That's a perfect lead-in for me, because I was going to say, when you talk about her not having the ability to bond with Cody in the way that like the OG3 did, this also prevented her from bonding with the wives, because she comes right in and says, yeah, I know you all sacrificed for the last 15 years, but I'm not a sacrificer. I'm not a compromiser. I'm not a team player. I need it to be separate. So, of course, the other wives are like, Gina, we've been through hell and back. And on top of it, as you mentioned before, they don't have much money still at this particular time. So she is taking food out of the kids' mouths by having the big bonus from this sign where it's like, oh, let's get some fresh fruits and vegetables in this house. Let's get rid of the stale bread and get some fresh from the bakery. It's now going into the rent of her house, and she's taking Cody out of the facility. Now, they're used to him always being in that house so that everybody can see him every day. Now, the kids and the wives, for the first time, are not able to see him every day, because the one taking all the money away from the better food has got his butt over there for 2 or 3 days a week. It's just a hot mess. I can't see how she couldn't see this when it was happening. And as you said, like, all the excuses that are in here as to why that had to happen, they just contradict each other. She says that Janelle offered it to her and that she chose not to because she wanted to build the relationship with Cody. And then she turns around 2 pages later and says there was simply no other reasonable option.
Right.
Am I going nuts? I feel like, oh my gosh, I am being gaslit.
Right. What are we doing? But it gets, folks, when you thought it was bad, guess what? It gets worse. It gets worse because something that's been talked about repeatedly on the show and on YouTube pages. I know I've had, I think, 2 or 3 videos on this very topic, the dress gate, what I call dress gate. To pull the excerpt. Now, Dressgate, so we're all familiar, is when uh, Robyn takes all like sister wives out to go dress shopping because she wants to make them a part of the selection, a part of the wedding, and then all of a sudden it's revealed that Cody actually picked the dress. That's what we're talking about. She addressed that in this book, and that's how. And when I saw that, I knew for sure. I knew for sure she had read something that made her want to go back and address this particular topic because it rubbed her the wrong way because they drugged the hell out of her, right? So in the excerpt that I pulled, it says, my sister wives and I went dress shopping for my wedding dress. The experience was really fun, and it was great to bond with them. I loved having their advice, but I didn't find a dress. Ooh, so I looked for a dress. I just didn't happen to find one, guys. It's not my fault. Again, not my fault. Later, I was looking by myself, and was having trouble finding what would be appropriate. Oh, it's not my fault. I was looking, I couldn't find nothing. I had never been a plural wife before, so I was a little nervous about what to wear because I had no idea what dress to wear to a wedding that wasn't going to be plural marriage. Because again, the wedding that they had was very close to a monogamous wedding, which she actually participated in. And you can see these types of weddings on TV anytime you watch a wedding special for any show. But she had no idea what kind of dress to wear, even though she went out with the wives previously to pick a dress. And I'm sure they showed her the type of dress.
And she had 3 actual wives who had experience in it, they're consulting her, but she still had no idea. No idea.
But, we're all dodos. So it makes perfect sense. Dodo, Cody called right then and offered to help me. And I said yes. Oh, it's not my fault. Cody just happened to call me when I happened to be out and I happened to be in a dress shop to happen to pick a dress.
The most amazing coincidence in Sister Wives history.
They're just so lucky. Later on in the show, Cody revealed this to everyone. I don't think he meant to cause any hurt feelings, but the damage was done. Janelle and Mary felt like I had pretended to want them involved in picking out my dress, and then behind their backs had Cody help me instead. So yeah, they weren't that far off though. What happened? Christine's struggle was that Cody hadn't helped her pick out hers. I was frustrated with Cody for blurting out the story in a way that hurt my sister wives. How you gonna hurt my sister wives with the truth? I hadn't meant to harm, but I just needed to pick out my dress. Like,
what's a girl to do?
Right. And again, it's not my fault. Why do these things keep happening to me? That's part of what I think her whole chapter should be. Why do these things keep happening to me?
I don't understand.
Right?
Like her whole life was I don't understand, and then the second half of Sister Wives, like the back 9 seasons, are I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand, and I don't know. The makeup of Robyn. Oh, it really bothered me. I'm sorry. It really bothered me that she said, I hadn't meant harm, but I just needed to pick out my dress. So first of all, I'm thinking, well, what do you mean you didn't mean harm? If it wasn't, you had a secret that you were keeping from people. How could that not be harmful? Like there's just no, I didn't mean any harm. And then the other part of me, the other part of that sentence that bothered me is the fact that she's like acting like current 20-year-olds today, which is this new thing of like, but I didn't mean to hurt their feelings. So it's okay. Right. There's constant like, well, I mean, okay, so that happened. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Like, I swear these people could get away. They could do murder and go, I didn't mean to kill them. I just happened to point the gun at them. It's just like it can all be excused because her intent wasn't to cause harm. And yet there's no way it wasn't to cause good. Like if it's a secret, you know it's going to be hurtful. And if it's going to be hurtful, then it is to cause harm. That's just another one of those lies where she's trying to come up with excuses and reasons for justifying her behavior. But yeah, you did mean harm, Robyn. You did mean harm.
Right.
And
Right.
you did harm.
And you knew it was going to be harmful. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you like, there is the part where you can say she didn't know. She didn't know it was going to be hurtful and harmful when things kind of played out. But like you said, there is a part, because what this kind of taps into is the idea of mens rea, or the evil mind, the criminal justice or legal term, where they talk about this is where they talk about intent. Like, I didn't intend to do it, so it's not I didn't plan to do it, so I didn't have the evil mind. This isn't something I wanted to do. However, a lot of times the way, especially you're being prosecuted by, about to go to jail, you're talking to the DA. The way the DA will sometimes establish that there was intention there, what they will show is if you try to hide or conceal a certain action, that you knew that the action was wrong. So at the end of the day, whether you intended to do it or not, the fact that you hid it tells me that you knew what you did was wrong. So even if you, oh crap, this is going to look bad. You knew it was going to look bad, and you knew it was going to be harmful. So you don't really get a whole lot of cover, as far as I'm concerned, on the tip that I didn't know it was going to be a bad thing. One of the other things that I kind of pulled from this was the one sentence that really kind of really stuck out to me, and I was like, what the hell? Was when it said Christine's struggle was that Cody hadn't helped her pick out hers. That's wrong. First of all, that wasn't Christine's struggle. He didn't just help her pick out her dress. That was what she said. Like, you didn't help me pick out my dress. You didn't give a damn what I was wearing. When she said that on the show before I read this book, I thought it was bad. But after I read this book and I saw her excerpt where she talks about he didn't even care about whether we were getting married or not. He didn't even want to get married. He was standing with the 1,000-yard stare. He barely got off work so that he could do the marriage. And then once they got married, he didn't even plan a honeymoon, much less plan on doing anything with her. Right? And he had been with her either they stayed chaste during their courtship. He didn't knock them bottoms out. So now she don't get deserve all that sexual frustration that he had with Robyn that caused him to have a 20-day vacation or a 11-day honeymoon. She didn't get even a night where he was trying to do anything. Come on, y'all. That's why she was mad. But again, this is that point where, at least to me, she's trying to hold Christine out like this is Christine's fault and this is Christine's problem and this is where Christine is wrong. But for me, Christine's not wrong in that situation.
No.
Brittany, not Brittany. Down there in super chat. Thank you so much. Then last season, she says Cody didn't help her.
Right.
Yep.
Isn't that the truth?
Right.
Man, how this woman can come back and just straight up tell lies to the camera. Is she that dumb that she forgot what she wrote in the book and what was on the show? I mean, it just blows my mind.
Yeah. But I like it. But again, Brittany, not Brittany, points out at the end of the day, the fan base or the folks who watch this show, if y'all on TLC, they pay the damn attention. They pay attention. Stop trying to lie and deceive and decept and obfuscate. Just tell the truth. Because they recognize when you're being honest with them or you're not being honest. They recognize it. But that whole thing with Christine, this is where Christine was just so jealous. Christine wasn't jealous. And I even heard, because I had a video about, because Tony and McKelty came out with that video. I think I talked about it before, where he addressed it and tried to put it off on Christine that she was being unreasonable because of the dress situation. She was completely not being unreasonable about the dress situation. And I challenge anybody. You want to talk to me about this dress situation? You have a different opinion? I'm asking you, not as a combative thing, but merely as a conversational thing. Hit me up at my take on reality questions at gmail.com, and we could set it up and we could have the conversation on air or do a live with you. We'll have a conversation because you can't convince me that her being upset about this dress situation was not justified. Christine's actions and her reaction to this whole dress situation was completely justified. I don't think she like overreacted at all when she got up
No.
and left.
She should have done
No.
more. I mean, she held it together. Just the fact that she's like, I need to step away right now because,
Right.
like, I mean, I would have I would have lost my cool if I would have heard
Right.
about that right there. I really, yeah.
Let me tell you something. As a guy who's been around, right? Not like crazy, like insane, but I've been
Do
around.
tell, James. Do tell.
Right? I've seen things, and I'm
Okay.
telling you, when she got up like that, she got the reason why, and this is just my perspective. When a woman, you're dating a woman or you're with a woman, and she gets up like that, the reason she got up like that is because she doesn't want to cut your ass out. She's like, I'm about to say something that's going, I'm about to nuke this relationship. So instead of me doing that, I'm gonna take a minute. I'm gonna step to the side, get myself together. If you push me to that limit, where I'm about to say something that's gonna hurt your feelings. You know what I mean? I'm about to go upside your head with some of these comments. So before I do that, let me just go ahead and take a breath. I'm gonna take a beat, and you think about what you said. I'm gonna go over here for a minute.
Yeah.
And so she just took her time out. And according to the story, like, according to the sister wife lore, it took her another week to get back out there.
Did it really? That's great.
It took her a week to calm down. Yeah, they had to come back and reshoot because she left the building. Like she didn't just leave the set for a minute and come back and they started again. She's like, I'll be back. And she got in the car, they saw tail lights. Yeah, a lot of hard braking, speed up to the stop sign, skid.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I tell you, that was Robyn's first taste in the fact that Cody can't keep his damn mouth shut.
No.
She probably gave him an earful that night. And from that point on, every time she is talking to him about the sister wives, she didn't let him the next morning leave the door until she said, what are we not going to say to everybody?
Right.
What are we not? I mean, she was on top of it saying, no, because she sat there when that all got revealed and he's all giddy. You could see on her face like, oh boy. How am I gonna get out of this? And for her to say in that moment too, I didn't say anything because I wanted to preserve the experience, both with me and him and the experience with the sister wives, just proves this was a covert operation that was going down because any bride would be thrilled to come home and share, I found my dress. Everyone wants to tell everybody. They might not show it to everybody, but they want everyone to know, I found my dress. It's such a stressful thing. It's like probably the biggest stressful thing for brides is like to find the right dress. It means so much to them. It's in the pictures for forever. They wanted to represent them. So for her to not say a word to any of them about it and just say she happened to get it, there is nothing wrong with the fact that Cody helped her pick out the dress. The problem is the lies that went along with it. Because had she come home that day and said, oh my gosh, he called me. He called me while I was there and he came and I found the dress and I'm so excited and I want to share it with you. Maybe they wouldn't have been thrilled, but oh my goodness, would that have been way better than to keep this whole thing as a secret? She's so dumb. I'm sorry.
Right.
I can't.
Well, because that's kind of the thing too. Like that's one of the things that I've always said. I think I've said it before when talking about this. Like when you have those kind of secrets, those secrets make your relationships vulnerable. So, when I talk to my friends, especially anybody, like I have cousins and stuff when they get married, like, look, man, if you go out and something happens, you need to come home and you should be the one to tell your lady this is what happened. Because if she hears about it from somebody else, especially from somebody, but I'm gonna be honest, especially from somebody she don't like, then your ass, like, it's gonna be all kinds of problems. You just inviting bad juju into your relationships. So go ahead and just look, it might hurt at first, and maybe it's embarrassing, or maybe it's gonna cause a little bit. What do you mean you went to? Just have that conversation with her because it's better it came from you than from somebody else. The second thing, as far as that conversation goes, I'm gonna tell you right now what Cody did when he revealed that was, and the look you were talking about on Robyn's face.
Mhm.
Everybody's been out with like some friends, and then somebody, usually the guy, will say something that's gone too far, and you can look at his wife and be like, "Oh shit, they gonna fight in the car. It's gonna be a long ride for somebody."
Mhm.
You're in one of those situations like, thank God I didn't come with them because
Mhm.
they're coming
Mhm. Mhm.
a car ride. So yeah, that's the look she had on her face, like, oh, I'm gonna tear your ass up. Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Did anybody ask you? Well, I thought it'd be a good story. Nobody asked you anything. Next time you think you want to say something, you don't say it, and you look at me, and I will.
Mhm.
I'll follow the script.
And if you don't keep it down, I'll just put my hand right over your mouth.
Yeah. I'm gonna set you up.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what's funny? Because she doesn't really get handsy until they start talking about that money. I'm just saying.
It's like,
Because he was saying a ton of dumb stuff before that, but as soon
yes.
as it was like, well, this is how we're gonna split the land up. Oh, you shit.
Don't say anything you're gonna regret.
Right? Don't say nothing. They taping this. Like you
That's
gonna
right.
mess the case up.
Yeah.
Big shout out to
That's
Tanya
so
Johnson
true.
with a $5 super chat, a super sticker. Thank you so much.
Tanya,
Appreciate
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, man. I see a lot of that stuff on this show, and I'm like, that's just a bad look. That's the bad look.
It's really
But
bad.
then, speaking of like the preferential treatment, we have to talk about the 10-day honeymoon. The 10-day
Mhm.
honeymoon, because Robyn had to address that because again, this is something that she took a lot of heat for during the time of the show. People were like, "Why the hell she get 10 days? Janelle got a weekend. I think Mary got a pretty decent thing. Well, both of them quit their jobs apparently. They go on honeymoon.
Mhm.
So that's the way they did it. Christine, he didn't even think about giving her a honeymoon.
No.
But what she wrote about the 10-day honeymoon, she said, sometimes I worry that it seems, and this is one of the funny things that she kept saying, like, sometimes I worry that it just seems like this, but it's not what it is.
You're right.
Sometimes I worry that it seemed as if I was getting preferential treatment because y'all don't know no better. Y'all don't know. I wasn't. I got the big wedding followed by a long honeymoon. However, the honeymoon was both necessary and special to me. I never asked Cody for a 10-day trip, but he must have had a sixth sense that was something important wow, that's terrible. So had a sixth sense that it was something important for us. Uh, and this is the crazy part. Just put it together. I again, like the wedding, like the everything else that was going on. It's always Cody's fault, or it's
Mhm.
TLC's fault, or the fault of the
Mhm.
situation. But she has no responsibility. And frankly, it bothers me that she has so little input in her own life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That you're sitting there acting like all this stuff is happening to you, as
Mhm.
opposed to you actually being a participant.
Mhm.
Before I give you a shot, I had Miss Skinner, Teresa Skinner in the house. Down in our super chat. Robyn showed what kind of sister wife she was.
Yes,
Yes,
she
she did.
did.
Right off the rip. Right off the rip.
Yeah.
But
Thanks, Teresa.
yeah, thank you, Teresa. But what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love this is the second time now that she makes a point to address preferential treatment. And she does again in the
Mm-hmm.
chat 3 times. You can tell that she is nervous and defensive about the fact she did get preferential treatment. So this
Right.
is the whole let me explain to you why, let me defend myself, let me point it out, and that sometimes it seemed as if I was getting preferential treatment because of the big wedding and a long honeymoon. And I'm like, and the house. I'm like, wait a second, you've already mentioned it early in the chapter. We might as well just, it wasn't just the two. She mentioned the other ones before, but like, if I leave one off, it won't sound as bad in this chapter. I'm like, no, there was more to it than that. And the 10-day trip, which wasn't a 10-day trip, it was an 11-day trip. Only Robyn calls it a 10-day trip. All the other sister wives call it an 11-day trip.
Right.
And that he had this sixth sense, not that it was important to her, but that it was important to us. Yeah, Cody again. All, this was all Cody, and he's just an amazing man who figured it out all on his own. I had zero input in this. I didn't say anything, but, just like the wedding, I didn't want that. There's nothing I can do about any of this. Oh, the funny thing is later on in that chapter too, it goes on to say not only was it important because they remained chaste until the wedding, lies, but also that when they were going to be returning home, her and Cody were going to be thrown into a cycle of homework and childcare. And I just thought, oh, these damn kids.
Right.
How horrible for you. And I'm like, after 11 days if my kids were that young, I would be going bonkers to get back home to my children. I don't even think I could ever even justify in my head doing that to my children if they were young. And then having them, after they have to meld into a family, they stayed with grandma, which I will defend Robyn on that one. Because if I were her, and again, it's always so hard to put yourself in the situation when you would never be there. But if I were her, knowing myself and my relationship with my kids when I was young, if I were to pick up right after we got married, after I made the choice that we were all going to be living separate for the past 8 months, and then I'm going to go on this 11-day honeymoon after the wedding, I would be nervous about them feeling comfortable and acclimated into this new house, this new environment. Everything's different. And I would say, go to grandma, have grandma watch you. You're familiar. Grandma's watched you before. They're comfortable there. So that is the only part, like very few times in life. I actually have a video coming out where I defend Robyn, and I'm like, one and done. Enjoy it, people. But I slam Cody in it. So it's not like just Robyn's a good person video. But I found that interesting that her coming home to homework and childcare was just such a horrible thing, the way she presents it. Like, I needed 11 days away because my goodness. And I'm like, homework and childcare. Yeah, like every day for 18 years of most people's lives. I don't get 11 days off.
Well, you know what? Because I thought at the time when I read that stuck out to me too, because the things she was complaining about were situations that were already in existence. This is a lot like her complaining about, well, we were going to get married in December, but as it turns out, there just happens to be holidays in December. Who knew? Like, this is something that was already this has been going on long before you were born. So what are you talking about? You had no idea this was going on. The fact that you got to go away on an 11-day vacation and then you're going to come home and you have to deal with kids. Yeah, that's what happens when you have kids. Welcome to the bright world of being a parent. You go away, you're incorporating these kids into your family. Technically, I agree 100% with what you said as far as if you got married and the kids did not quite have a chance or an opportunity to meld into the new family, then yeah, it makes perfect sense that you would send them to their grandmother. However, they talk about how they had dated for over a year and they had spent the last 6 to 8 months living in Lehigh, where you could have had the opportunity, especially if you would have moved in with Janelle, you would have had the opportunity for your kids to be completely acclimated within the family when you got married and when you went to your honeymoon. Now, you were more worried about working it out with Cody, and by working it out, I mean working it out all the way out, like, because I don't buy the chase stuff either. So you were working it out with him, but you weren't working it out with them. You weren't working it out with the family. So, like, the whole idea, like I said, the 11-day thing, it just tickles me that, again, this is another thing that I know a lot of you guys are talking about it. And there's another point too. Don't tell me what I think. Stop telling. Like that's the one thing that both Robyn and Cody do that like above most things that just annoy the shit out of me. And I'm gonna use that part of my French, but that just annoys the hell out of me when you say that what I think. I know you think that I'm getting preferential treatment. You don't know that I think you're getting preferential treatment. And the fact that you can acknowledge or see where I would think that lets me know that you know that you're getting preferential treatment. You know that's the case. So
Mm-hmm.
again, you're admitting to stop admitting stuff, Robyn, before you deny it. That's all I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But how
She
about the part? Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. I was
I
gonna
was
say, what about the part where she
go,
blames
go James, go James, go James.
like, yeah, no, you have you. It caused crash, but we both stand on the side of the road, wait for the cops. But how about the part of the story where she blames the previous marriage as to why she needed to have this time? She says, since we believed in remaining chaste before marriage, is what you were talking about. The honeymoon ushers in a new part of our relationship. Those 10 days were especially important to me because of the hardships I had been going through in my previous marriage. In addition to this, since I already had 3 kids, the minute we returned from our trip, Cody and I would be thrown into a cycle of homework and childcare. But again, at the time, that's the benefit of you having sister wives, right? Because they
Right.
will be able to help with the homework and childcare, right?
How it's
And
supposed
the
to
fact,
go.
right, right. And it just and a weird part to me was the fact that she used her previous relationship as a fulcrum point to try to blame that on why you were allowed to have a 10-day vacation.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in my mind, I get it. There could be issues and traumas and things that you suffer from a previous relationship that honestly you should deal with before you get into another relationship. You
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be trying to take it into the next relationship and heal yourself during the course of the next relationship because you actually stand a better chance of screwing that new relationship up with your old luggage or old
Yeah.
baggage from your previous relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So like that wouldn't have been that to me. That's a non-excuse excuse. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
Well, earlier I was just going to talk about how when she says, "Oh, I now understand that the dress situation was like a bad thing," and then it's, "I now
Yeah.
understand that the wedding was probably too much, and that hurt their feelings." And so she gets
Right.
back from the honeymoon and goes, "I now understand that 11-day honeymoon was hurtful to my sister wives." I don't believe any of that, first and foremost, but she proves that she knew that this was going to be hurtful. One, because planning the wedding, she tried to incorporate all the sister wives so she could make it like, this is our day. Because I know that
Right.
if I do this big grandiose thing and you all just happen to show up that day, that it's not going to go over well. Two, she told Cody he had to call each of the wives when they were on the honeymoon. And she did this because she knew that they were hurting back at
Mm-hmm.
home. So she said every day, you need to call them. So again, here we go with the whole lives. Like, oh, I just learned this. I just learned this. But yet you cross reference it with what she says later on. And she admits that, how did she even put it? So, okay. I made sure Cody called all of them several times during our 10 days away, 11. But not all my sister wives took his calls. Oh, wait a minute. You now realize when they wouldn't take his calls? When you were on your honeymoon, they refused to accept his calls. You didn't get clued in at that point that
Right.
possibly they're a little miffed about this situation right now. Oh, she's a piece of work.
Right. Right. Well, because even with that, because I had some stuff with that too. But well, before I get into it, Brittany, not Brittany, Brittany, not Brittany. 199 super chat. Robyn, don't be angry about these 11 days. I'm a real victim here. My ex was poor, like poor. He,
Mm-hmm.
he was poor boy. My ex
Mm-hmm.
turned out like Rabbit is. You know,
Mhm.
thank you, Brittany. But
So
yeah,
I
I agree.
needed this. I came from
Right,
such
right,
a poor situation. I needed these 11 days.
right.
Complete disregard for the OG3 who spent 15 years poor as she
Right.
was.
They were poor like my ex, so that's what they deserve. I'm
There you
rich
go.
at heart. So we need to take all the money because now we finally got two nickels to rub together. We need to spend those. Like
Yeah.
that's basically what that was. But
Mhm.
like what were you saying? Like with the with regard to the oh damn, I lost my train of thought. Just that quick, you saw it happen. I just glitched.
I I did that last week, remember? It was there and then it was gone.
Right? I have a point, and it was like, no, you don't. Like
I did.
welcome to it. Uh,
Oh.
oh, okay. Oh, so there was a point where they talked about the calling them, and the excerpt I had was I understand now, and like you said, the whole thing of like now I understand. Now these things happen. Now I understand. What that to me kind of indicates, or is more indicative of the old phrase of it's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And
Mhm.
that's where I think that like Robyn, when especially in this time, that's where she was living. It's better for me to just do the thing that I want to do, and then I'll deal with the fallout later. And then when the fallout happens, she relies on the whole thing of I didn't know, I had no idea. Now I understand that it was wrong, but I didn't
Mhm.
know that before because I'm so innocent and young. The truth of the matter is that Robyn at the time, even though she was younger or junior to the OG3, she was not a baby. Like Robyn
Mhm.
wasn't coming out like I guess a traditional polygamist. That's a shot, but she wasn't coming out like a 17-year-old young bride that she was
Mhm.
married into the family. And she just didn't know how to do things. Like you're a woman of the world, and we'll actually talk about that in a little bit, believe it or not, because Robyn does address that. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and
um,
she also, along the lines of that, I think has spent her life getting her way with men. And
mhm,
she can just bat her eyelashes and talk sweet and have a little smile and things went her way. Well, that doesn't work with sister wives.
right,
So I
right,
think she's shocked when she gets back. You know, she said, I just thought I'd come back and everything would be fine because we're married. That changes nothing. That changes
right,
nothing. Like, if anything, it's probably going to bug him even more. Like,
right,
she's here for good. There's no getting rid of her
right.
now. But
Oh, we
she seems
stuck with
to
her
think
hands.
it was going to be rainbow and sunshine afterwards. I'm like, no, you cannot bat your eyelashes at these women. They're not falling
Right.
for it. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that that's also the difference between like when you're dealing with real women. Like so, and by real women, I don't mean like all of a sudden Robin's plastic, but it's just that when you're dealing with people who are in the real world
Yeah.
and just the real reality of how relationships and interpersonal dynamic situations work, if you go out and somebody does something and they're used to, and this is where you can see, like you said, I agree with what you just said. When you're used to people treating you a certain way based on how you look,
Mhm.
you don't even think about it after a while. You don't even think of it as a superpower. You just expect that reaction.
Mhm.
So when she does the thing, she thinks that she's going to come back, act all innocent and cute, and bat her eyelashes, and the
Mhm.
other women are going to say, "Girl, you fine. Don't worry about it,"
Right.
or do like Cody would do. But the subtle difference is Cody's trying to be with you, so be with you in a biblical sense.
Mhm.
So he's going to go along with it. These women have no interest in that. So they're completely immune to your bull stuff. Like it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. This is the equivalent of what is it? A pretty girl that never gets a ticket.
Mhm.
The minute she get pulled over by that female officer, oh, you getting all these tickets.
Mhm.
You might as well go ahead button your shirt back up because you're about to get you catching all this fire. Wow, Lindsay B with the $20 super chat.
Look at
Cody should
you.
have told Robyn a modest wedding and a short vacation. Take it or leave it.
Mhm.
Well, that's good advice, Lizzie, but my man Cody don't listen to that good advice. He's like, good advice. Oh, we're gonna turn the page. What's this questionable advice? Now that's something to work with. Why is it that he could be frugal with Christine, grocery money / vacation, when she was trying to see her father. It wasn't even a vacation. She was talking about what Lizzie B is talking about is when Christine was saying she wanted to go back and visit her father. Cody said that she could save up her grocery money so that she could get it together so she could go see her dad who was sick. Like that's crazy to me. But super lavish with Robyn. Like, make it make sense. There you go. Hashtag like make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Thank you, Lizzie B.
Thanks,
Lizzie B,
Lizzie.
one of the moderators. Appreciate you.
So true.
Yeah, but I mean that's an excellent point. Like you said, like with Robyn, it's like, oh, you can have your own place. These women are sitting there struggling, trying to figure out how they're gonna feed their children. I'm sorry, not even their children. That's I misspoke. How to feed their children because these kids are Cody's kids too. It's not even like the responsibility just lays on the shoulders or backs of these women when he's the one that made these kids. He had just as much participation in making these children and bringing these kids about as these ladies did. So it was his responsibility to make sure that they were clothed, fed, they had a roof over their head, and if they could participate in anything, that was his responsibility too. But when it came to them, now we got to make it work. We got to make the dollars last. But as soon as the money starts rolling in, anything Robyn want, no, girl, you can have your own place. No, you want to get married? Let's have a big wedding. No, girl, you want to get that dress? Not only let's get you the wedding dress, but as she talked about later on, when they got the dress and they got married and they wanted to do the pictures, she had a dress made. She had a tailored dress made. Mm-hmm. So that's not a cheap thing. That's not a little bit of cheap expense. So she had 2 dresses for the wedding. She had a wedding dress that she changed it to. Then you go on a lavish vacation. Then, and at the same time, these women are at home, and that's part of the thing that's not talked about either, or I haven't even really addressed. But it's not just the fact that they're on an 11-day vacation, but how are you going to be on an 11-day luxury vacation when I'm here eating peanut butter sandwiches?
Right.
I'm sitting there trying to put together what they used to call jam sandwich. You take 2 pieces of bread and jam them together. And you sit and eat bread sandwiches. Like, no, I'm going to be pissed. And yeah, I'm not picking the phone up when you call. So and that's another thing. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm about to go off. But up the hell with it. How are you going to call me on vacation from a beach? You're going to call me from a beach and you go, hey guys, what's going on? Oh, it's snowing there. Guess what? It's so nice here. No, I'm not picking up the phone. Yeah, I'm pissed off. Are you kidding me? I haven't seen the beach. I haven't had no sand between my toes. And you're going to call me and like you're rubbing it in. At some point, you're rubbing it in.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of, oh, you need to call your wives. Tell them what a good time we're having. Like, right. Are you trying to start a fight? That's what I'd ask Robyn. What are you trying to go home to? Like, there's 3 of them. Kids. You're going to be fighting kids off your back, trying to get out the house. Like, it's going to be problems for you, Jack. So, no, we're not going to call them. We're going to call them, and I'm going to leave them a message to call me when they want to talk to me. Or we'll call them at the evening. I got to set time aside where I can actually have a real conversation instead of that, like, because Cody, they taped one of them. Not this last thing. They taped one of them where Cody had called Mary, and they did like the little teenage mouth breathing stuff where they just on the phone listening to each other breathe. Like, that's not even a phone call. So if you're going to call me from vacation because I'm sitting at home, let's have a real conversation. Hey, how's it going, James? What are you up to? What was your day like? How's everything? What happened at work? Oh, I know you had this going on. Show me that you were involved with my situation. That you understand what's happening with me. That'll make me feel better because at least that way you're away and you might be having fun, but I still feel like we're connected as opposed to you just being away doing your thing. And like, yeah, we went to the club, then we came back, we got something to eat, went to a fancy restaurant. You know, I like steak dinners. So we went to the Palm. That was like $200. And I'm sitting there eating my bologna sandwich. Eat my cucumber sandwich, pissed off. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. They were living high off and it goes back to them being home, trying to get the food together and feed everybody. They're on this luxurious vacation that, again, just as you said for the wedding, okay, TLC paid for it. Does that mean you have to take all 11 days? No. No.
Right. And let's be honest, because even then, I think the TLC shot for half of them. Like, they might have shot for 4 or 5. and they
Right.
gave them the rest of the days.
They were on
And
their own.
they probably paid for it. Yeah.
Absolutely, because
But
there wasn't enough content there they probably had a few days in a row. They had a couple activities planned during the days, and then they had the rest of the time by themselves. Even though Robyn claims she felt like she needed another vacation because it wasn't right because cameras were there. And I'm like, they were not there for 11 days. We didn't see you going there. We didn't see you coming home. We didn't see, no, I don't believe that
because
for a
what are their
second.
scenes? Because their scenes were essentially, we saw them in the hotel room, we saw them on the beach hugging each other, we saw
Yeah.
them go surf and try to surf,
Surfing.
and we saw them go down the zip lines. That was it, and they went to dinner.
Did they go to a zoo too? The San Diego Zoo,
yes,
maybe? Yeah.
yeah,
And that was it.
and that was it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not 11 days worth of stuff.
No, I mean,
A
a few of those activities could easily be done in the same day.
right. A few of them could be done in the same day. The dinner could be like,
Yeah.
you do the zoo, zip lines, and the dinner. That's one day right there.
Yes,
you know? Lynn Skinner with the $4.99 super chat. $4.99 for the French job. Yeah,
I'm trying to keep it clean here.
I'm trying. I know. I'm trying.
Catherine has negative influence on me, and she made a comment that like they almost got me to slip here today.
Pull it out. Yeah,
blame her.
You don't get me, Cody. It seems like every time we talk about Cody and Robyn, every time I talk about them, I'm right in the, like, I try to keep it above board, but I'll be right there and I'm like, the hell with it. Like, we going all the way in. Because it gets me worked up.
Thank you.
Teresa Skinner with the 1999 super sticker.
So generous.
Thank you, Teresa. Awesomeness. Brittany, not Brittany, down 99 super chat. Logan was rationing eggs and they're frolicking. Yeah, that's cold blood. You're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they had that boy get up that early. Like, he makes breakfast for his siblings, and you guys out there complain about you have to come home and do homework. And he didn't make any kids. Like,
right.
These are your children. You better get your ass home. Don't you got babies? Thank you, Brittany. Not Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany. I want to point something else out too. Talking about how dumb and ignorant, or just lying, or probably a combination of both. We have Robyn in this whole chapter when she was talking about thinking she was going to come home and everything's going to be okay now. She didn't understand why people were upset with her. She says, okay. While Cody and I were courting, I wanted to be close with these three wives. Whenever I came over to their house or I headed back south to southern Utah, I would hug them hello or goodbye, period. End of sentence. I was just like, I wrote in the margin, you're amazing.
Right.
She comes up, takes him away, but she offers something to the family. She gives a hug to them, either hello or goodbye.
Right.
And she
the
feels
sacrifices
like,
I made.
why do they not like me? Give them a hug. I mean, come on.
Right.
That's worth me having this lavish wedding and the 11-day honeymoon in my own house over here and taking them away from the family for multiple days a week. I mean, I hug them. What do they want?
What the problem is, like, and the crazy part is, I've seen strangers hug each other hello and goodbye.
I hug everybody hello. I'm a hugger. I'm a hugger. I just met my son's girlfriend yesterday. And we were just getting ready to go there. And then she was in another state doing a performance. And so right as we were getting ready to get there, he's like, so are you going to shake her hand or give her a hug? I'm like, shake her hand? I don't remember the last time I'm like, have you met me? And I'm like, am I going to shake her? I said, when was the last time I shook someone's hand? Maybe a doctor. I can't even recall when I've last shaken. I'm like, of course I'm going to go up and give her a hug. So I mean, anybody I meet for the first time, great to meet you. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Not a sacrifice.
Do the thing. If it's bad news, we can shake hands.
Yes, that's true.
If it's gonna cost me money, hey, how you doing, buddy? Yeah. A big shout out to Raspberry with the $5 super chat. Super sticker, Raspberry. But so then we get into the yeah, like I said, this thing is chock full of
It
goodness.
really is. It really
This
is.
this is chock full of content goodness.
Hmm.
Mary and Robin's relationship, where
Yeah.
where where Robin expresses that Mary and I had started out with really great relationship when I started courting Cody. I was so excited to see that she wanted me and her family. She wasn't just looking for a sister wife; she was also looking for a best friend as the courtship. And then she goes on because that Mary's the one that supposedly brought Robin into the family in the beginning. Was very excited about it, kept that secret because remember we talked about the secrets earlier. There
Yeah.
was also a secret when Robin came into the family that Cody and Mary didn't share that Cody was even courting or interested in courting Robin with the other wives up
Yeah.
until the time that it was time for her to officially start, broaching that subject. So they go on later to say, this is where it gets kind of crazy. It says, as the courtship progressed, Mary's and my relationship struggled. But I thought that once Cody and I were married, this is one of the things you had mentioned,
Mm.
that it would get better again. I knew Christine and Janelle were struggling too. But again, I thought it would all get better once I was officially a part of the family and not just a fiance. So I just held on because it's not her fault. She's struggling and she's
Hmm.
the martyr in this situation. And you guys don't understand this. So you need to recognize how much Robin has sacrificed and gave up to be a part of this family. Now, the thing that stuck out to me was actually where she where she just essentially blames Mary for having jealousy of her coming into the family. Even
Mm.
Christine and Janelle being jealous with her coming into the family. But what I found most curious was that by season 18, she sat there repeatedly, would meet with Mary and say, I had no idea that there were so many problems in the family. I had no idea there were issues. When
Hmm.
I came in, you guys must have been great actors because when I came in, everything was smooth sailing. Remember that? And all of
Hmm.
a sudden, even in the book, she's saying that she knew there was problems and that they had
Hmm.
issues with it. And
Hmm.
again, if there was, and she goes on later. I don't think I pulled it out, but she goes on later, and then I'll turn it over to you. But she goes on later to say that had any of the sister wives opposed her union with Cody, that they would have stopped everything altogether and they could have blocked her from coming into the family.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's not the case
No.
because they were struggling, which
Right.
means that they weren't all on board with her coming into the family. So, what
Hmm.
happened to the veto power? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. I wrote that all over my margins too. And actually, I have a video that I've started to. It's going to be a little bit before I get it together. But on that last topic, actually, that whole comparison of Robin playing the was it me? Did I miss something? What
Right,
happened with
right,
this family? Like, I just thought everything's okay. What did I not see? And I'm like,
right,
oh
right,
my gosh. And then this book confirming it in so many ways, just proving that, like, a year after they're married, or maybe in the first year, she's already in counseling with one of the sister
right,
wives. And she admits that and this book was written just like, what was this? Like the second year, I think that she admits
second or
all the
third
way
year because
in
they had
this
college.
that yeah, Christine and her are still where her and Janelle are getting better, but they're still
Right,
working
right,
things out. And her and Christine, not quite there yet, but
right,
she sees promise in the future for them too. This is the beginning of the series, so
right.
that is maddening. So that was something that I've been trying to pull together for that. But I also her saying um, if they truly hadn't wanted Cody to marry again, it would have been simple for them to
Mm,
forbid. It would not have been simple for them to do. That is not how the
no.
hierarchy of this relationship was set up. And they already had, it was, if both of them objected, it would have been 2 against 2. So somebody would have had to bend. And of course, Janelle liking the whole family kind of thing. Christine was on the outs. There's just no way
Right.
around. She said she was open to it, and then she thought it was exciting, and that I think that's her. I think that all of that is kind of BS, and that she was trying to be a team player. So she's saying the words that she needed to say at that time, although there's all those cracks that we can see where she's like, she better be great. Like, I'm not really thrilled about this, but yeah, I think I see it. And even if she did, let's go back and say at the beginning of their courtship, I'd have to actually track. I wonder if she was even pregnant. Was she pregnant at the time of the beginning of yeah, she may have been, right when they started courting, that she was pregnant there already. Because it was like 6 months of courting and then 8 months of an engagement, but the baby was born before the wedding. So, could have been. So for her to say it would have been simple for them to forbid it, she would have been outnumbered. And never did they ever say they'd say there's a vote. There's always a vote. There's always a vote. Okay, there's a vote, but they never say it has to be unanimous. They just say there's always a vote. And we know Christine was not on board with this, and here she is having a baby and that. But she, even if she at the beginning really was like on some sort of pregnancy hormones or whatever, and said, all right, I think the idea of you maybe courting somebody else is okay. It appears to me that after that point, in most monogamous relationships, you could be courting for a while, you could even be engaged, but then, you really break it off. That the wheel had gone into motion at that point. There's no way she could have pulled back. There's no way they would have listened to her to say, I don't know anymore. So in the beginning, when nobody really knew each other, and that once she came, and it seemed pretty clear that Robyn was not blending and meshing. She didn't have the same values they did, and financial responsibility that the family had. I use that term loosely, but hers was even worse than the Browns family. There was no going back. You can't change your mind at that point. So for her to say that is a lie, that it was simple for them to forbid it. And then a man must have absolute permission from his wives before considering courtship with a new woman. All right, well, courtship is at the beginning of it. And I want to know what she means about absolute permission, because I don't believe it had to be 100%.
Right. Well, really, you know what? Because I think that when you look at it, if Cody is super excited about this relationship, and this is something that he really, really, really wants to do, how much leverage do you actually have with telling them that you can't marry the person that you want to marry? Is essentially what they're trying to, you know what I mean? So, like, even with a lot of because I've heard this kind of expression before, like in different situations, different circumstances. Usually, when somebody is being limited, I won't necessarily call them oppressed, but when they're being limited in a lot of respects, there's a facade of agreement that is given. Like, oh, you have all this power. Well, you really don't. You know what I mean? Like, you can make all these decisions. Well, you really can't. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that if Christine ever would have said, you know what, I don't want to do this, then the first thing Cody would have hit her with was, you're just being jealous. You're being small. You're being petty. You need to pray, because this goes against everything we believe in as a church. And you're just being a jealous sister wife. Mm-hmm. And you're not opening your heart to adding people to our family who should be in our family. I have a calling that she should be in the family. Mm-hmm. And then that's what she would have been combating with. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I don't really see I don't like, as much as I like to pretend that they had a voice when it came to a lot of these decisions, I don't see where they actually had voices that would have registered on any point, because there's always, like, even with the system as laid out, like the way they laid a polygamy thing out, they try to lay it out like, oh, the women have all this power, they have all this independence, they have all this choice, they have all these decisions. But you always have like the back door of saying, was it be sweet and keep sweet. Mm-hmm. Don't say anything. Don't buck against the family. It is by definition, it's a patriarchal society where the man is like things are geared towards the wishes and desires of the man because he's supposed to lead the family. So ultimately, you can make a suggestion, but it stops there. It's a suggestion. It's not a true vote, or you don't have veto power. So you really don't have power, you know, and that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah,
But
I think that's the trump card too, James, to say,
right,
I heard from God, you know?
right.
How do you argue with that?
No, you didn't.
Well, okay, you know, like, so have you not heard from God? You know, because I heard from
Like
God
me
that she's
too.
supposed to
He
be
told me
part of
don't
our
do
family.
this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. They don't have a word to say after that.
Right. That's an excellent point too, because it comes down to the complete veto. The
Mm-hmm.
veto power. I believe. Well, yeah, God told me. And then what? Like, how do you argue with that? Other than, well, I have a message from God too, and in my heart, I feel like we shouldn't do this because God put a message on my heart. Yeah, but since I'm the guy and I'm the head of the family, it's more important that
Mm-hmm.
God speaks to me. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably the devil talking to you. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Right. Ooh, you better start praying more. That's Satan
Right.
getting in your mind and messing with you. So pray until that goes away, and then we'll know that you're
What
hearing
is
from the
that,
right
jealousy?
person. Oh,
That's
goodness.
that jealousy coming up again. You need to stop
Uh-huh.
that.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna ruin the family.
I
You know.
wonder if Christine ended up bowing down to this whole idea at that point on the show where she talks about that she realized he was really in love with her. I feel
Right.
like Christine was against it. She was kind of like, or maybe it's a good idea, but I don't know. And then she's here. And then I think as it became more real, she didn't like it. But then when she saw how giddy he was, and she's like, "Oh, you're really in love with her, aren't you?" And she saw something in
Mm,
him she'd never seen for herself, or maybe even the other two sister wives. Like, it was different.
right.
And he said, "Yeah, I think I am." And she said he was all giddy in that, getting excited, getting ready for there it's in one of the episodes too. Um and I feel like I wonder if that's the moment that Christine decided to just lay her cards down and fold and say,
Mm,
okay, well, like, far be it from me to have real love that obviously looks like it should be together, to keep it
right.
apart. And she may also, I mean, she knows Cody Brown. If they really did have that, oh, would he hate her for the rest of his life? I mean,
Right.
she could have a miserable life going forward. So now she kind of has the or the Mary position as well, to say, okay, I'll give it my blessing. But I don't think she ever
Well,
felt
yeah, because I have a video coming out. I think I have to edit it unless I have to reshoot it. But I have a
it.
video coming out tomorrow that's actually going to talk. Well, it'll come out Tuesday because I'll do it on Tuesday. But it's actually talking about that because it's pulling the. I pulled that clip that you're talking about where
Mhm.
he's sitting on there. Like, I was sitting on Christine's room. I was sitting on the bed and I was openly weeping. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And he was crying at that moment. Like, he was crying then, thinking about it. And
Mhm.
Christine was like, "Yeah, I remember." And she's ready to start crying. And like you said, you could see in her face that she understood at that moment that it
Mhm.
wasn't just this is a person whom he was bringing into the family. Robyn wasn't just a person he was interested in courting or
Yeah.
dating or
Yeah.
adding to the Brown
Different.
family.
Mhm.
He was in love with her. Like, he
Mhm.
was in love with her. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier. I think you were saying it as well. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you were saying it as well when it was like, you know, when you're faced with that, you realize what your position is. Like, he might like me, he might even love me, but he's in love with her.
Mhm.
And if given the choice, if I force him into a position where he has to make a choice between me and her, even though you've been together for 15, 20 years, in your heart, you have to ask that question. If I make him choose or give him this ultimatum, is he going to choose her or is he going to choose me? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And in
Right.
that case, I think rightly so. I think she made the calculation and she very well may lose that bet, you know. So
Yeah.
it's sad. Like, it's a sad situation because Like when he did that description, he thought it was a cute story to tell, but I could see how much that broke her heart.
Yeah.
You know, even in that moment, it broke her heart because she realized that he was gone. Like
Hmm.
she had already lost him, and at that point, it was just a matter of her fighting to try to keep something that was already leaving. Like it was like trying to hold sand. You know,
Hmm.
like I'm gonna go to the beach, scoop up a bunch of sand. I'm taking this home on vacation. It's just falling through your fingers. By
Hmm.
the time you get to the car,
Yeah.
you got barely anything left, and that's pretty much what their relationship was like
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
end of it.
Had he been
You
able
know,
to control himself around Robyn and around the rest of the people when he was talking about Robyn, I think the beginning of their lives would have gone way smoother. That
good point.
knowledge that the two of them, they have something different than none of us have with him. And then the behaviors and all that went along with it as well. But if he could have just been the man and
Right,
been able to compartmentalize those relationships and treated her just like somebody that he sort of likes and not been all googly eyed with her and smiling different and acting different and talking about her different to the other wives. I just think it would have gone very different and they would have been okay with it down the road 6 months, 9 months, a year, like if he could have kept it contained to the bedroom and treated her like he treats the rest of them in public, they may still all be together again, but he couldn't do it
right,
right from the
right,
get-go. He had to pretty much like put it out there. This woman's different.
right. She's the one, y'all. But you
Mhm.
standing amongst
I
the women.
finally found her.
You standing with three women who have 13 of your kids. I finally
Mhm.
found the one, y'all. The one that's gonna make me happy. The one I'm gonna spend the rest of my
Yeah,
life with. She's amazing. I
yeah,
never
yeah.
had a love like this before, y'all. Why are
Yep.
you crying?
Thank you, three,
But
for getting me to this point and helping me learn what it is I really want.
right. Thanks for getting me ready for your replacement.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Like I do think that there's that point where it's that unsettled uh, situation between Cody, Christine, and even Robyn. Like where she's fight Christine is fighting to keep her man, but he's long gone. Like he is gone. And there's no coming back. Once he got her, there was nothing that Christine or anybody else was going to be able to do to salvage that relationship. And I had read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but like I guess in doing preparation for some of these shows, I read somewhere that polygamists, there was I was maybe it was polygamist quotes where they said polygamy only works if you're a husband who can never let any of your wives know that you ever have a favorite or you prefer to spend your time with any one wife. Like it only works. Like you have to keep it completely. They all have to remain completely uh, thinking that either everybody's equal or secretly they all think that they're the favorite. But
Hmm.
at no point does anybody ever really know who your true favorite was. There could never be a consensus on. Yeah, he prefers to spend time with this one or that. Because if you do that, it won't work. It just won't work.
Hmm.
And I think that goes towards what you were saying, like with him being so outwardly emotional about being with Robyn and committed to her that you completely ostracize the other three ladies, and that puts them on their heels. And you start talking about security, insecurities, challenges, and struggles that they have, which creates discord in the family. There it is. That's why. You know,
Hmm.
they might have been okay. And again, they might have been okay with you going on 11-day vacation, but nobody's okay with you going away on 11-day love fest.
Hmm. There you go. Not with the love of your life, no, but
Right, right. And I'm sitting there love to fish it. I'm depending on you.
hmm.
Girl, you need to come home. What's going
That's right.
on? We need to work this out. Let's see. Not Robert was. There was a thing where I titled it "Becoming a Monster." There's a strange phenomenon that happens. This is how Robyn describes it. This is the
Yeah.
excerpt. There's a strange phenomenon that happens in our lifestyle. When you are struggling with jealousy and insecurities, you manage to transform your sister wife into some sort of monster. You begin to believe that your sister wife harbors you ill will or intentionally means to harm you. And from this paranoid perspective, real problems begin to arise.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm.
it's not, again, it's not me,
She's a
it's
victim.
them.
Yeah.
I, I'm innocent. There is their insecurities, their jealousy, and their struggles, which are causing me to look like a monster. So
Mm.
again, it's not my fault. That's pretty much one of the excuses I got.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you would pull that out, the
Oh,
becoming a monster.
that whole page. I actually have that in part of a
Yeah,
video. I did a video on Robyn claiming that um, she lived polygamy, that she the polygamist expert, essentially, how she touts herself. And it starts with this: there's a strange phenomenon that happens in our lifestyle. Like, okay, stop already. Just stop right there. I don't need to hear any words of wisdom on polygamy from you. But then she goes on through this, and I read a part of this page in that video because it just sticks out. Because she goes on the rest of the page. Usually paranoia springs from
right,
the insecurity about your relationship with your sister wife, but not with your sister wife, but with your husband. Like, she is just trying to therapize them right here on the page and explain that all of these feelings that they're feeling about her have nothing to do with her at all. She's
right,
like, I am the innocent party in this, and I've been working hard for them to see, holding the mirror
right,
up so that they can see, you don't have a problem with me. You have a problem with him. He's the
right.
problem. And I do think that sometimes the wives said that to her to be nice because they were mad at Cody too. So rather than
Mhm.
deal with, I'm mad at him and I'm mad at you, they're just like, I'm mad at him right now. So I think that there was a one time that Christine said that on the show. And I'm like, I think she took that one line and she just ran with it. And
Right,
goes on and on. Often they struggle with me when they aren't feeling close enough to Cody or when they're dealing with their own jealousy or insecurities. Here are the choices. You're either having a problem with Cody right now, or you're jealous, or you're insecure. So let's figure out where your problem is, because it's not with
right,
me.
right.
I don't think it's with me, but it's not with me. Oh, she's a piece of work. No
Well,
accountability.
exactly, exactly. And because there's also the aspect in it too, where if you take out the things that she's saying that these ladies are experiencing, like she says that where is it at? It's up here, where she talks about insecurities, uh, jealousy,
Mm.
like that kind of envy and being mad, your own personal struggles. What she's doing is she's saying that it's their fault that they're feeling this way because
Mhm,
it's not on her. It's nothing
mhm,
that she's doing. And technically, it's nothing that Cody is doing wrong. It's their insecurities and their jealousies. And if we look at the broader scope of how they've said that before, when they talk about insecurities, jealousies, and all those kind of behaviors, they consider those to be extremely negative behaviors. So technically, not only do you have these deficiencies, you have these sins that you're carrying around, and those sins are causing you to disrupt the family, which is creating a larger uh, discord and a larger sin and a larger insult to the rest of the family. Like,
mhm,
so it's like when I read that, I was thinking of how she's not only taken herself out of the line of fire, but essentially when you start talking about insecurities, jealousies, and you're saying that you're jealous of me,
mhm,
you're saying, like, she's ultimately saying that it's a sister wife failing that they're suffering from. So it's
mhm,
your fault, and it's not real. It's not something that's real. Gaslighting. That's true gaslighting when you're told that something that you're angry about or should be angry about isn't really a thing. That's not
right.
really, you crazy. There's something wrong with you. When technically, like you said, because that even ties into that, which you said that they usually blame Cody because it was an easier way for them to blame Cody instead of blaming Robyn because if they blame Robyn, technically you're just being a jealous sister wife. So you have to lessen that responsibility by saying that you're mad at Cody. Because if you're mad at Robyn, then you're jealous of Robyn. And so therefore you're just being a bad sister wife. You're not really offended. Nothing has really happened to you. You're just a bad sister wife. So if they're mad at Cody, they get to not be a bad sister wife. And this is like one of the ways that she's manipulating this entire situation. So, like, I know a lot of times, I know I've done it where I've said that Cody utilizes the system to game the system so that he can manipulate the OG3. This is an example of Robyn using that same system that technically she also would be a victim of and being taken advantage of in gaming the other ladies using that same system. You know, and so that's to me that was crazy. This is like I said, this whole chapter is crazy sauce.
No, it's absolutely insane. For people who haven't read the book, too, I'm just going to pull out a few lines in case you think I'm just repeating myself. She wrote, I discovered that some of my sister wives were often angry with me, not because of something I'd done, but because they felt like Cody loved me more than them, and this scared them and threatened them. Okay,
Right.
let me go on. By talking things out, I was able to gain a fuller perspective and realize that their issues with me were really not personal. Often, they struggled with me when they aren't feeling close enough with Cody. Like, can we repeat ourselves again? Or when they're not dealing with their own jealousies or insecurities. Okay. She goes on. I know that having a great relationship with my sister wives has less to do with them and me and more to do with them and Cody. No matter how many times you say it, Robyn, it doesn't make it true. You know, she is trying to talk herself into believing. Like I'm really working hard at trying to explain why nobody likes me in this family, and it's all Cody's fault or their own insecurities. But she takes no responsibility.
Right.
But I will give her one credit. She starts to take responsibility in one sentence where she says, "I feel these things myself, and I have to work on dealing with my own insecurities and jealousies and not blame my sister wives or Cody for them." So we have to have the tagline at the end, and I'm going to work on that. And I'm not going to blame my sister wives and Cody. So it's like you had to bring it back around and make sure the end of the sentence said, because I'm not going to do what they're all doing here. It's ridiculous. This whole page is insane when you just read it all the way through. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. She's really, really, she's nervous about this whole situation.
Right. Well, I noticed that even in that exchange, the one thing that's curious to me is that because everybody's seen that situation, but when somebody says like, "Oh, you know, because I'm guilty of the same thing," like, so I'm going also. So you're trying to like you're criticizing somebody for a thing, and then you're going to try to put yourself in that thing because you know we're all fallible humans and we all got to work on things. But the one thing I noticed is that you never gave an example of how you do this thing. So instead of you just telling me that you do this thing, tell me like a time that you did this thing and that you were wrong and how you overcame it. Like that would have meant a lot more to me. Like that like that little bit of add on to that little comment would have meant a lot more to me and it would have gave a lot more substance as opposed to, you know, I too am fallible. But I recognize my fallibility, and two, I work very hard to cure that fallibility, which makes me pretty much perfect. It's just a backhand way of saying it. You're doing the work, and they need to start doing the work that you're doing. They need to catch up to me because I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh, she's the master. This whole chapter is mastered that. Let me give you another example. I don't even know if this is a word because I couldn't think of how exactly to describe it. So I wrote this as a self-aggrandizing compliment, which might not even be a term, but I've termed it now. And this is Robyn. This is Robyn talking. Okay. All right, where are we? She's talking about I'm on the path to developing a closer relationship with Janelle and Christine as well. So this is her, this is near the end. I jumped ahead, but it just reminded me of that last thing there. So she says her and Mary, they're great. Okay. On the road with Janelle. And then for Janelle, she says, Janelle and I have opened the lines of communication, and we have found that we have many things in common. She has amazing talents. And I just thought, wait. And I went up to my husband, who's an English teacher. I go, what's it called when you give somebody else a compliment so that it bounces right back at you? And he's like, he's like, I don't actually think there's a term. He's like coming up. So finally, I'm like, I came up with it. It's self-aggrandizing. It's like self-aggrandizing compliment. So I'm going to tell you, like, Janelle and I just found out we have so much in common. She's amazing and has so many talents.
Right.
Period. End of sentence. And she goes on.
With the in parens, I am amazing that I have so many talents. Because we have that in common. Like, Janelle is awesome, which makes, that's why we have so much in common, because I too am awesome.
I have a lot of talents too, obviously. Yeah.
Right. And that's what we do. We sit around and talk about our awesomeness together.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, well, because even with the because what did I have? I had Becoming a Monster Joe's. The thing that struck me too was the idea that jealousy of Robyn, where I titled Jealousy of Robyn, where she says usually this paranoia springs from it. Oh, you read that part? Yeah. We were on the same page. So it's the idea that I took from this one sentence, or at least I want to highlight this one sentence where she says, like, she talks about the paranoia springs from insecurity about their relationship, with the sister wives and the husband, and how you might be in a better situation. The last part of that blurb that you just read was where she says, Cody loved me. I'll read the whole sentence. Eventually, I discovered that some of my sister wives were often angry with me, not because of something I've done, but because they felt like Cody loved me more than them. When you stop it right there and say, Cody loves me more than them, and that's why they're afraid. She didn't say that it's not true. She just said that this is what they're afraid of. Like, I could be in SeaWorld, I fall into the tank with the killer whales or the great white sharks, and I could be afraid that one of those animals is going to hurt me, do things to me in the water. Now, maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, and me being afraid of it doesn't mean that it's happening. But it's not saying that because I'm fearful of it that my fears aren't validated. And I think that that's one of the things that stuck out to me, is that you recognize that these ladies are afraid that Cody may prefer you, but you recognize that Cody prefers you. Because even as we'll talk about later on, she recognizes that she can say things to Cody and present things to Cody, and Cody will go along with the things that she says or she presents. And she takes it as, I just have great ideas. No, it's because Cody prefers you. That's why Cody's listening to you. That's why Cody seeks your attention, your advice, and your input, because he prefers you. And you recognize that. So technically, Cody loves you more. Yeah. That's not, that the ladies knew what was going on, and you're just mad. Like, what I got from this was, they know what's going on. You just mad that they calling you on your bullshit. Like, that's all it is. You just mad that they calling you on it. I can't believe they recognize that Cody prefers me. And how they gonna say it out loud and discuss it amongst each other? The nerve of some people's children.
Oh my goodness. We have a whole section then that comes up with her talking about basically what a great communicator she is, and how the family really needs her. She's got this special gift and talent. And we know from the last couple seasons that she speaks Cody. But what is speaking Cody? Speaking anything to Cody, because he will, as you said, do anything that she says and believe everything that she says. So she'll go into even mediate. I love how she finds it. She always finds it. I don't even know if I have it. I know I have it marked here somewhere, but there's situations where she specifically, oh, here, I think she wrote about how emotionally sensitive she is. And even the smallest issues she wants to work through. So she's again saying, it's not my fault that I baby my children. It's that I am emotionally sensitive and in tune with them, and I find it important. And these heathens that I have joined are left to their own devices, and they, as long as there's no blood, they just kind of figure it out, right? Which I thought was interesting. She's like, if you're not bleeding, don't tattle, basically, is the philosophy of the Brown family, which works when you have 13 kids. And she said, for the most part, they leave it to the children to work out their own problems. Like, this is a nasty, horrible thing. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they turned out pretty great. They're pretty independent. They're pretty confident. They're, successful in their own right. They're happy kids. All right. So, all right, we'll go ahead and leave that. So then she's talking about being more emotionally sensitive. And she says that instead of telling the children to go work something out on their own, it's my instinct to mediate. And I'm like, yeah, i.e. meddle. Like if her children are involved, and later on she goes on to say, well, I do it for the other children too. But the bottom line is she's overprotective of her kids. And she said that the wives and the older kids in the family were very critical of her when she came into this relationship because of her. But she goes on to say, no, they misunderstood. I'm special. I have a gift that they don't have, and I can speak in a way that's going to be able to mediate. And she went on at one point here to say that, like, she really, I'll find it at some point. But the wives eventually began to understand that she could do this, and that she sees it like, kind of as her mission, if she will. She's like, I want to provide myself to be there when there's conflict in the other relationships. And we've talked about this before, like, yes, that's how she gets in to find out all her intel. And that's how she can, and then everyone thinks that she's so wonderful because in the end, Cody will listen to her. So all she has to do is side a little bit with the sister wife. And then they're like, that's amazing. Cody would have never done that for me. Oh, this whole section was just driving me crazy. Her talking about how amazing she is. Like, she is like the counselor of all counselors, and that the family should be just grateful that she brought these amazing talents to them.
Right. Well, because I think that there's a part where, like, even going back to the whole mediating between the kids, like, there's a part where if we update that to season 17 or 18, season 18, where they had the conversation where they had the kids call each other and they had the whole text exchange. And then all of a sudden, Robyn jumps on the text exchange and blows the whole thing up when they were doing the thing. That is a direct result of you not giving your children the freedom or the tools to be able to negotiate and solve their own issues or problems. If you as a parent always have to, if you find yourself always kind of ringing in and chiming in with these kids when they're having discussions, in my opinion, I think that you're disabling their ability to be able to deal with, especially their peers, from peer to peer. Like, so if the kids are having a disagreement, because I think I know the reference you're referring to, or you mentioned earlier, where she says, if I find out that there's even the slightest disagreement, I sit those kids down and we try to get to the root and to the source of all the problems. Kids don't need that. I don't need that. Like, when I was a kid, I didn't need to figure out what this kid, if we have a disagreement, we just have a disagreement and eventually we work it out. And that's how our friendship works. But if our friendship relies on somebody else to come in and mediate for us, then we don't have a friendship.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the OG3 found themselves, because if they ever needed Robyn to actually mediate, and what she doesn't say in this is that they put an end to that. Like I think they did. They kind of fell into it in the first year, but they say, okay, yeah, this is the bull stuff. We're not doing this. We're not
Mm-hmm.
doing this no more because I need to be able to have a conversation with my husband the same way you can have a conversation with him. So they put an end to it, but that's what she doesn't say. But
Yeah.
they have, like, if you want to be married to somebody, like, I don't need somebody to go talk to my brother, my dad, my wife, or anybody that I deal with. If I have an issue with them, I talk to them about my issue because nobody can explain my issue as good as I can. I know what I'm feeling. I know why I'm mad. I don't need somebody else to, he's mad because he's really angry because of that and that. I can tell him why I'm mad, and then we can have that discussion. But we have to be able to work it out. And I think that's where Robyn kind of, like I said, that's where she blew that whole conversation up on a text message. I wanted to be there to protect my kids. Your kids don't need protection from their siblings unless
Mm-mm.
there's something going on. In which
Right.
case, maybe they shouldn't be talking to their siblings if it's that dangerous for them to talk to.
Right. Which
But
didn't happen because all of them were on the text chain. So there's no way that
right,
something dangerous or unsafe was happening
right.
on this text chain, that she just didn't like the way that it was going. And so she shut it down. There's
But
a line
actually,
here. She says, when she's talking about the sister wives and how she really wanted to be closer with all of them, she says, I want them to know that I will always be open to hearing what is bothering them so that we can get closer. How
right,
manipulative is that? So she writes this in the book so that they'll read it. I just want you to know I'm doing this for you. Like, I don't want
right.
to do this for you. I'm doing this, and it's going to make us closer too. So tell me everything.
Yeah, tell me all your problems.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me all your secrets. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
it'll make us closer. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it
Yeah.
will. But because even with that, like, the one thing that really struck me is that is she's manipulating, or maybe that's, yeah, I mean, that is the right word. It's double entendre, but is she's manipulating the situation, and she's manipulating these words. It makes it sound like she's open to this. And there was one point in this whole, like, category of things where she was talking about, well, I felt as though, because if you go back a little bit, she had
Mm-hmm.
a thing where she was saying when she was coming into the family, they were treating her like this helpless lamb who was coming into the family. When things became difficult between me and my sister wives, they have a tendency to block me out and not give me a voice, while they might be jealous of my relationship with Cody, because she keeps throwing that in there. They might be jealous of my relationship with Cody that apparently she didn't have, and she wasn't she wasn't his favorite, but they're jealous of her relationship with Cody. It says, I don't think they realize how often I'm confronted with the fact that they all share a history that I will never be a part of. And she goes on to talk about how she comes into this family that has an established culture. And in the next paragraph, next couple paragraphs, or the next entries, she goes on to describe how she tries to dismantle the
Mm-hmm.
culture of the family. Because if the culture of the family is, if you not bleed, don't snitch,
Yeah.
or I forget what it, don't tattle.
Mm-hmm.
Put my
Mm-hmm.
own spin on. Don't snitch. Snitches get stitches. But if you are, if you're not bleeding, don't tattle, and you're trying to change it to, we need to be open emotionally and emotionally available to one another, you're changing the culture of the family. So that whole thing, that whole diatribe you put out about, you came in and you were at a disadvantage because they have all this history together. That history doesn't mean anything if you're changing the culture of the family. And this
Mm-hmm.
is, again, this is her being separate. Like, this is her being separated from the family, even around the corner. Like, you have your own family with Cody. You're not part of the Brown family. You're not joining them.
Mm-hmm.
You and Cody are forming your own family. You're forming your own tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And these other women can either get on or get off. And that's where we were in season 16, certain 16, 17, and 18, where these women can either join your tribe or they can hit them streets.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we found ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of that attitude comes out at the end of that page too, where she said she was upset, as you mentioned, the whole little lamb thing, and that the wives are trying to mother her. And she said, I have to remind my sister wives that I survived both a difficult marriage, there we go again,
Right.
and several years of single motherhood on my own. Okay, there really weren't several years because you were really with Cody with the hope, like, all right, and
Right.
daddy paid for
Within
the
months of divorce.
apartment and the house you were living in. And okay, but fine. And then she goes on to say, I'm strong and independent. While I'm grateful for their advice, I don't always need it. Period. End of sentence. I just wrote, damn girl. Like, all right,
Right.
if you say so. I'm like, I think you should be a little more open and not come with all of your ideas to everything. Like, maybe you should just take a back seat for a while and you might blend in a little bit better, as opposed to saying, this is how we do holidays and this is how we do this and this is how. She just doesn't get it.
Well, because even what, like, because I agree with that, because I think that, like, there's a point in that where I kind of take that as shots fired. And, I say that to say this. If she says, look, these women are coming to me, and as you expressed, like, I'm a divorcee, I have to remind them that I too have been married. I was in a relationship, it did not work out. I left him. I was a single mother, and what she's saying is that I have life experiences that you naive, innocent folks don't have. You went from your parents' house into Cody's house. I've been out there in the world. I have experiences. I know how the world works. So please don't try to lecture me on how the world works. I need to teach you. And and again, this is the that grandiose approach to her, saying, like, I am fabulous, I am wonderful, I am strong, powerful, and independent. And I am independent. In fact, she's saying, I'm independent in a way that you ladies have no idea about. Like, I know a world where I was a mother who was 100% responsible for her kids. You guys have never been 100% responsible for your children. That's that's the feeling I got when I read that. So it was a very backhand comment.
I would love to see Janelle's face when she read that, because Janelle, at one point, left, got her own home, got a degree, had the kids, and was still bringing the kids back, so they were still part of a family, and probably giving half of everything she earned still to the pot to make sure that the rest of that was being funded. But I know that that's where Robyn's coming from. You're absolutely right. But I would just love to see, to be a fly on the wall when Janelle and Christine read this. What I would give.
Are you crazy?
I have a couple more. Go ahead.
And that's actually the point too, where you look at it and say, and you wonder why they don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, you read through this, I don't know why they don't like me. This is why they don't like you. You said, like, you come out of your mouth and say a bunch of crazy stuff. Then you criticize them because they don't understand how the world works, because you've been out there doing it by yourself. Matter of fact, she had in there too, I was paying my own bills. They don't know nothing about it. Janelle is literally paying your bills. Like, she's literally taking care of you and your kids. And you're going to tell her she doesn't know what it's like to pay a bill? Are you crazy?
It's insane. Why don't they like me? Let me count the ways. We've been through like 25 at least already now.
Right, exactly. But you were saying, I'm sorry.
I just had written, there were some more digs she had here, and I have it marked in the side here. I raised my kids to be more emotionally sensitive to one another and to be comfortable expressing their problems and concerns. But then she goes on to say that eventually the kids started to become a little comfortable with her parenting style, although they were opposed to it at the beginning, the wives and the older kids. And she says, they've begun to confide in me because they know I am patient with their problems. Oh, I just thought, like, ooh, dig. And then she goes on, they are willing to spill their guts about the most personal issues, which is something of a relief to them. And then goes on to say, I'm emotionally vulnerable to them, so they can talk to me about anything. This is a direct dig at the wives to say, you know what? Not only was my way the best way, but your children, they come to me now. They tell me their secrets. They're emotionally vulnerable with me. And what's going to hurt a mother more than anything is saying, your kid's not going to come to you in times of need. They're going to go over there
To
in
somebody
times
else,
of
right?
need. Yeah.
Right, right. And actually, I think that's more of it. Like, because even with that, I think that's more of a shot to Christine because
Probably.
at the time she was the one who was dealing with the kids, and as
Right.
it like as we
Hmm.
know now, and it played out later in season 16, 17, and 18, when they sit there and say, "What are you gonna Piper? You're taking all the kids away."
Yeah.
When he was Cody was yelling at Christine. Like the truth of the matter is, I think when she says that a kid was coming to her and talking to her, I think the kid she was referring to was McKelton. And
Probably.
like that's my guess. I hazard that guess. But
Hmm.
even with that, I do think that like that's an excellent point. That yeah, if you really want to hurt a parent, if you want to hurt a parent, tell them that when your kids cry out for help. If somebody ever came to me and said, your daughter got in trouble when she cried out for help, she didn't cry for you, she cried for me. That would
Hmm.
hurt my feelings. Like that
Oh,
shit would hurt me to the core. Like when
yeah.
she needed help, she wasn't thinking about you. She was thinking about me. And
Hmm.
I am the one that she finds salvation in. What?
Hmm.
And you wonder why I don't like gas? Like, another, add that one to the list. Got it.
Yeah.
Because I would have a problem with that. Like, I would have a real problem with that. So I
Hmm.
think that that's the excellent point. There's a lot of stuff that might fly by some folks as you read through it, but if it was affecting you, or that she was talking about you, like you
Hmm.
go a lot deeper. Like I feel that. Like I feel what you're saying on
Yeah. I read it and I just thought, whew, shots fired. I'm like,
that.
take the man. Go ahead. You can have him.
Right,
Even if I'm madly in love with him right now, have him. But don't you say that
right,
my kids prefer you over me and that they will confide in
right,
you because they can't confide in me. Oh, don't. Don't go there. I'm like, that's the line that would have made me kill her.
right. Like you roll up on it. That's how you get rolled
Hmm.
on. Like people
Hmm.
pull up to your porch. You know what I mean? Pull
Hmm.
up to the lawn with the hammers drawn. But see,
Yeah.
that's the thing too, is that because there is a way that she could have said that. Like in my perspective, there's a way she could have said it. She could have
Hmm.
easily have said, because even thinking about what you said, like as far as shots fired, she could have easily have said, there are times when, I now feel like I'm a full mother in the family because there are times when the kids will come to me and seek my guidance on issues.
Yeah.
And that would be fine. Like I wouldn't be mad about that. Like there would be,
Hmm.
but that would also make her part. And here's the crazy part for me: that would make her not only part of the Brown family, but that would put her on an equal bearing with the rest of the mothers. With this particular statement, that sets her above the rest of the mothers. And that's where I find, like when I was saying earlier, I got the feeling that she had wrote this, and this was kind of like the justification letter. And I'm so awesome, but you people don't understand how awesome I am, so I have to try to school you. Like
Hmm.
that's where I got that from, because that all ties into the idea of you guys just don't recognize how great I am. I sit and I talk to them about their problems. Even with what you said, like they'll come to me and they'll tell me things, and they'll tell me their little small problems, and I'll
Hmm.
try to solve them. That's something that she's doing for them, but she's not getting anything from that.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I'm such a benevolent person. You get to come to me and tell me your problems. I don't really get anything from it, but it makes you feel awesome that you
Hmm.
get to talk to me about your
Hmm.
problems. And I
Hmm.
do that for you because I'm
Hmm.
such a wonderful person. Like, what the shit? Like, you don't get to say that to people. Like, people lose their minds over stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think you're right that I do believe she probably was talking about McKelty because her and McKelty did have a close relationship. And I know that
right,
there was a period of time that McKelty really struggled with communicating during her teenage years with her mom and dad. And so Cody would, or Robyn, yeah, with her mom and dad. So Robyn would be the one that she would go to. But I love how she doesn't say McKelty. She goes, the kids. It's
right,
plural. She makes it seem
right,
like, all those teenagers that we have, they're all coming
right.
to me now. Yeah. She writes it in such a way that yeah, she's got them all at her doorstep lined up for the therapy sessions.
Right, right. Because I am the Cody Whisperer, and
Hmm.
the here's something that I maybe I thought about it before, just let it go, but would is kind of a dark thought, and just bear with me for a moment. How incredibly dark would it be if Robyn were to allow McKelty to come over, not because she's genuinely concerned about McKelty, but saw that as a way for her to manipulate her way into the family, like
Mhm.
somebody who she could control or manipulate. So you allow her to come over, you spend time whether you feel like you're justifying and validating her concerns and her feelings, but you really don't care what's going on, but you validate her so that you can win her over because you need somebody in the family to like you.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's so crazy that somebody would do that. I hope that it's not true. I would hope that it's not true. But, I just pose that as a possibility that just ran across my mind as we were talking about it. Like
Well,
that would to me would be like crazy evil.
I have thought that actually in the past. So apparently we're
Okay.
both on the dark
Okay.
side, James.
On the dog side.
Yeah, no, I've
Okay.
absolutely thought that because I felt like she wasn't getting in with anybody, and her kids were, like the young ones were playing with the young kids. That was fine and all that, but the older kids, I don't think warmed up to her kids that how much they really warmed up to, because they were their siblings their whole life. So
Mhm.
the new kids in the family, they weren't as close and lovey with that, and so she kind of felt like odd one out, and she created this whole environment, but she's trying to figure out how to get in. And then there's McKelty struggling with Christine. So she's like, open arms, come here,
Right,
child.
right,
And not only to start to get in with the kids, or at least to have an ally so that she can be like, I'll listen to you, but so that McKelty will now go back to Christine and say how great Robyn is, hoping that maybe she will like, well, maybe Christine will like me now. Or maybe she's doing it out of
right,
spite. It's possible she's doing it out of spite. Like, I'm just going to have a kid that wants to just keep coming to me. Either way, it's manipulation.
right, right. And that because what really struck me with that is the fact that that's usually what you know I don't want to get too dark with it, so I'll go the other way. Like
Okay.
in the wild world of the wilderness or whatever, the wild animal kingdom. Like that's how lions stalk out gazelle. Like you stalk the one that's off by itself, and it
Mhm.
even more predatory individuals in our society. A lot of times they go after the kid that's alone that doesn't quite fit in, that's struggling to make friends or struggling to fit into a group. You
Mhm.
befriend that child because that child doesn't have any other resources on the outside, and that's an easy in for that particular individual. So I mean, I would hate to think like I know we put a lot on Robyn, but that would be so dastardly that I hate to put that on her because that would be like the epitome of like that goes beyond just selfish and
Yeah.
manipulating. That steps more into the realm of evil if
Yeah.
you would manipulate a child that way, especially
Mhm.
because there's also all kinds of benefits if she does it. Because one, she gets to end with the Brown family because you have a full fledged member who is singing your praises and validating you. She's awesome. She's great. She listens to me. She's amazing. You also have the benefit of hurting somebody who you may not like. So if she was having a problem with Christine, you're taking Christine's kid. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And you're bringing her over to your side and your perspective. That hurts. So I mean, there's a lot of, and I can run a whole list of stuff that you would get if you were doing that, but it would just be insane that you did. Like, I hope she didn't. Like it's one of those
Well,
things. Like I hope that's not what happened, but that's probably what happened.
I mean, and it's not that far of a stretch to think that that is what her intent is, because when you read her
Uh,
description of it here in the book, it's straight up, it feels straight up evil. That the way she words it and comes right out and says, they're coming to me now, their deepest, darkest
right,
secrets, not naming anyone, making it sound like it's plural, like it's basically all the teenagers and all that. Like, eh, she wrote it in an evil way in this book. I don't
right,
understand any other way to interpret it. Like it like hit me to the
right.
core when I first read it and went, "Phew, back off,
Yeah,
Robyn."
yeah.
Those are
Well,
fighting words.
because that's the thing too. Because when I read it, the way I read it, it wasn't just like one or two kids. She wrote it like
Yeah,
all the kids. Like I have
yeah,
all the children now. Like she, like, you know what I mean? Like she children of the corn over at her crib. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Oops, you went mute. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I got some things cut off and then turn my other stuff on.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
what you
like,
said there at the very end, though. She makes it sound like, well, you guys got the feeding and the educating part down, and I've
right,
got the emotional component where now
right,
all the kids will come to me when they have any kind of issues and problems, or they just have secrets that they need to share.
right. Them
My
burden
role.
themselves with. And now, oh my gosh, like that just occurred to me too. Like even with the whole idea of the secrets, like because like if you have kids and they go somewhere, one of the things you tell your kids is like, don't be out there talking house business. Like you
Mhm.
ever heard that? Like don't be talking
Yeah.
about the house stuff that happens in the house. You don't go out and be telling people outside the house what's happening behind these doors. That's
Mhm.
none of their business. You keep house business at home.
Mhm.
And if she develops those types of relationships, because one of the things that because it just hit me and I'm all excited about it. But one of the things that always hit me was one of the protections they had, and one of the things they had always talked about during the course of the show is that in the bedroom, that's a private place that the sister wives don't even go into each other's bedrooms. They might go into each other's houses, but they don't really go into each other's bedrooms. And the idea that you could have somebody who is inside your house going to another wife and telling them everything that's happening behind in those four walls, not only with the wife or the child to the mother, but the child and the father, and what's happening when the dad comes in, and what their relationship is looking like, what issues they're having, what conversations and discussions they're having, what are they arguing about? Especially if you look at, and maybe I'm kind of spiraling here, but especially when you're looking at stuff like Robyn is putting together when she planned to go to Arizona. Wouldn't it have been nice to have somebody in the house who would have came back and told you what Cody and Christine were arguing about when you presented the idea of going to Arizona? You know what I mean? Like you're building spies and out. Like, I don't know. Like
Mhm.
but maybe Laura's right. Maybe she's not that smart. Maybe she's not that evil, that wicked. But to me, that's kind of one of the things that as I'm thinking about it more, it's
Yeah.
starting to stick out.
But
And
I
so
think it's different there. I think you can be really not smart at all, but be evil.
right,
Like
right,
I
right,
think they're two different skill sets. I do believe they
right,
tap different parts of the brain because there are people who can just be conniving and just like have a gift at that. Mm,
right.
And
But
and
it's
I
just
think
not
that
well
might,
thought out.
yeah, that's Robyn. I think she's the poster child for that.
Right, right. And that's a possibility because, like you said, like it's written in the book in a way, but at the same time, maybe she's so naive, and this is a part that maybe she does benefit from, like her naivete. Maybe she is so naive that I'm looking at it saying, well, maybe in her naivete, she thinks this sounds good when this absolutely sounds horrible. Like you should never see this, but she thinks it sounds good. It's like the guy who brags about like all the women he slept with. Like
Right,
my man,
right.
that sounds disgusting. Like, what do you know? You don't tell people that kind of stuff. Even if it's true, you keep it to yourself. Why are you telling everybody?
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
man, everybody need to know how cool I am.
I'm sure that's the angle she took when they approached her, because I'm sure they approached her after they read that, or at least Christine did. And I think that that's probably the angle she took, but then that's contradictory to the fact that she comes in with all this worldly wisdom
Right, right,
and she
right,
can school them. Like she plays both sides of the
right, right.
coin.
I'm the master of the world, but I don't know anything.
Exactly.
I have no idea. Oh, big shout out to Michelle Woods, the $10 super chat. Hey, Michelle, haven't seen you in a bit. How's everything going? Looking good. I've been watching Hell's Kitchen and Master Chef lately. It's strange how similar the shows are. Almost every person would sabotage their teammate to win the grand prize. Maybe Robyn should audition.
That's a good
I'll
take,
tell you,
Michelle.
Michelle, yeah, right. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
Robyn should contact you as her manager because
Yeah.
it's either Hell's Kitchen, Chef, Master Chef, or Dancing with the Stars. So look forward to one of those three programs. I'm sure Robyn will be
Dancing with
here.
the Stars. They have those
Yeah, right.
plastered smiles the whole time. She couldn't do it. Like I
Right.
think physically impossible for her to maintain a smile for longer than 60 seconds.
Well, it would be awesome though, because it'll be a different take on some of the dances. Because I've never seen anybody do half them dances with like a mean scowl on their face. Like,
it'd be
they got
priceless.
problems.
I mean, I would be all for it. Trust me. I mean, there's another night of lives. If she does that, it'd be amazing television. But I don't think that they'll ever put her on because I don't think they can get that up. And you know how they hold it? Like they have that all the time. They always seem like they're literally going to jump out of their skin because they're just so happy about everything when they cut to them before and after the break. And they talk so, I mean, to the point that if you really know some of them and then you see it there, you're like, whoa. I mean, they get coached really hard on how to keep that persona throughout that entire show. It would be amazing to see her try to do that. I'd love it.
Right, but she had that look like, damn, how tight are those shoes? Like, you know what I mean? Like she had that tight shoe look. Yeah. Like her dogs is howling, like she's in trouble.
Yeah.
Pie Wacket, Peggy. I think that's right.
Yeah, I think so. Pie Wacket Peggy. That's a cool name.
Pie Wacket Peggy. I'm Peggy. Petty. I'm thinking about Robyn. You got Robyn on the brain. Petty. Peggy. 989 super chat, super sticker. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a cute cat too. I like your cat.
It is cute.
All right. But so we talked about her being emotionally sensitive, emotionally available, and emotionally for everybody. And then the protector. I think we had talked about that. I go out of my way to create an environment that is safe and protected for everyone in the family. And from that, I kind of went into the whole thing where she says she speaks Cody during the first year of the marriage. To Cody, her sister wives began to recognize what they call my emotional intelligence. So she was bragging about how emotionally intelligent she is. And even when Janelle has expressed to me that she is grateful for my ability to make a tough conversation safe, Mary also confides in me when she is working through an issue because she knows I will validate her feelings. I think you had read that portion earlier. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on was the idea of Janelle saying that Robyn makes the conversation safe to have. This actually reminded me of a time when Christine was complimenting Robyn on the show. And she had said something to the effect of, I love when you came into the family because if you disagree with Cody, you'll say things to Cody that I didn't even know you could say. I never knew you could disagree with him because you'll disagree with him openly. And he listens to what you have to say. The truth of, like, when I heard her say that, even when I read this passage, it reminded me of that, even from the respect of what she had said earlier with Cody loving her and caring for her more, and the wives being jealous of it. The truth of the matter is that she could say that stuff. Like, to me, if he really cares for her, she could say things that the other ladies couldn't say to him. So they didn't have the room to say it, because if they were to say it, it would have created it would have been a completely different outcome. It would have been a completely different issue.
Well, yeah, because after she came into the family and they saw that, eventually Christine did find her voice and started to speak up. And Cody did not like it. Why no one gives me respect. I'm the head of this family. I don't need a bunch of voices coming in. Like, he started to get really upset then when they saw what Robyn was able to get away with and thought, well, shoot, if she can do it, then maybe I'll speak up too. Like, no, you can't. You can't. Only Robyn can.
Right. You better not be.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, it's just, and I think that's just the thing too, because like Mama Corpse Maker, Mama Corpse Maker, it's like, don't bring her kids home late. Emotionally sensitive equals manipulative. And I think that that's part of it. Like, by saying that you're emotionally aware, and I'm sensitive to other people's issues. She had said that earlier, like she was sensitive to a lot of people's problems. That was her way of saying that I recognize which way the water is going. And you could trust me because I know what's happening and I'm aware. But then at the same time, this goes back to the whole thing. Like, you're emotionally sensitive, you're of the world, and these women look down on you, and you're independent, and you have all this stuff and this experience that they don't have. But then at the same time, when things happen, you just figure it out, and you realize now that you shouldn't have did this. You didn't know that this was something that was wrong. I had no idea that there were problems. And like you were emotionally tied into these people, but you didn't realize that there were problems throughout the rest of like in the early years of the marriage. Like, when we first got married, I thought everything was perfect, but you were emotionally in tune with these people who were miserable and struggling.
Right.
It just doesn't match.
It doesn't match. That's her
You know,
MO, though. There's so much of that in her life and through all these episodes and all these seasons of that, of her just, she says one thing and then later on she says something completely contradictory.
right, right, right. And it's insanity. But
Mhm.
the last bullet point I had, I think I jumped over everything. But yeah, the last bullet point I had was one of the last sentences said I had the benefits of being a sister wife. That's what I labeled it as.
Mm.
This is what Robyn had to say. She said, "My sister wives already do so much for me that sometimes I feel lazy." Stop right there. Sometimes she feels lazy because she's not doing nothing else.
I
She's got
know.
nothing else to do.
Can you believe she put that into print? And I'm
Right.
like, all right, absolutely. We're on board. Some truth is coming out all of a sudden at the very end.
Right there, you just gonna put it all out there. She said, "I had grown used to taking care of myself, attending to all my business affairs, my housekeeping, and my child rearing. Now, Janelle does a lot of the accounting for the family. Christine entertains and keeps the kids happy when they are together, and Mary gets us all organized for trips. They have taken such an enormous burden off of me. I, I've had to grow accustomed to having so much taken off my plate." And when I read that, I was like, and then they gave her a nanny. They gave her, she hasn't had to work. Like, there's a lot of stuff that she's just not responsible for.
Yeah.
And when Christine said that, what does the nanny do? Like, I think it's kind of morphed into like, what does the nanny do, and why is the nanny doing it? If
Right.
you're home and these are your kids that you wanted to have and you wanted to be a part of, like she said that she wanted to be a part of the big 18 children family. Like
Mm-hmm.
at the time it was like 13 kids plus her three,
Mm-hmm.
16 kids. You wanted to have 16 kids. Now you're responsible for a fraction of that and you have help. So what are
Mm-hmm.
we doing? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. I'm writing that down, James, because I just love that quote. What does the nanny do and why is the nanny doing it? I just love
Right,
that's it really it has to go together.
right,
That is
right,
fantastic. Yeah, she doesn't have anything to do. And when you read that too, I want to point out she says Christine entertains and keeps the kids happy when we are together. Christine
right,
does not entertain and keep her kids happy ever. She's not
right,
allowed to watch her kids. The nanny
right,
is going to watch her kids. But when we're all together as a family, I can sit down in a chair and just get my plate of food and relax because Christine's going to be taking care of all the kids when we're
right,
all here
right,
together. I just thought, oh, that's very interesting. But then I also wrote in the margin, you know what? What does she have to contribute? Like,
right.
I don't understand what her skill set is. She hasn't shown it yet in 18 seasons. Like, she kept saying, remember there was that one episode where she was so worried because they couldn't make the finances work and she wasn't working. She goes, oh, I just hope they see my value here. And I'm like, what?
Right,
Just show us. Like, I'm not
right, right.
seeing it. I don't understand. I mean, occasionally she takes some of the kids over, if somebody else is busy, but they all do that in times of need. Like, there's not a big contributing force of like I'm the watch the kids person and I'm the finance, like I just thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe you join the family, everyone, those are the roles that everybody already had. Mary the organizer, and Janelle the financial person, Christine the kid watcher and cook. There was she just kind of let it go. She didn't
Mm,
say like, I really tried to make a meal for everybody once a week, or I tried to offer that all the kids could come to my house. Now, she had stipulations on who could come to her house and when, and my understanding is that most of the time they had to play in the backyard. They weren't even allowed in the house. But she doesn't fit into this framework, and nor does she seems very happy with it. She's like, you know what?
Right.
This one's doing this, this one's doing this, this one's doing this. I'll just sit back because this is wonderful. And thank you for taking up all of the work for me, but offers nothing. And after reading this, I just wrote in the margin, poor Christine, because we listened to her chapter about like, I'm doing this, I'm working at the school, I'm volunteering on the board, I'm cooking all the meals. And, it's just like juggling all these balls to make it all work. And Robyn's like, oh, this is so great that everyone's taking everything off my plate.
Right.
Oh, Christine had to have no hair left by the end of this chapter. She pulled it all out.
Well, because I think that there's a point too where it's like on two fronts. You had one with Christine. There's a difference between Christine having to work and establish her place versus Robyn getting to sit and ponder what she can contribute to establish her place. Yeah, I mean, there's a very subtle difference. It seems like the same thing, like on his face, at least when I first thought about it. But if you really dig into it, like Christine was actually doing stuff. Like you said, she was going to the school, she was doing the church, she was having school, like she was homeschooling, she was watching kids, she was going to work. Robyn comes in, she was like, I don't know, what do I have to offer? What am I bringing to the table? Which actually leads into my second point, which is what Cody's mom and Janelle's mom said about their relationship with Wynn, Cody's dad, where they talked about Cody's mom had said when Janelle came into the family, I think her name is Janelle, but when Janelle's mom came into the family, Cody's mom said, my job was taking care of the kids and the house, and her job was taking care of Wynn. And so I think that when you translate that matriculates down to Cody and OG3 plus Robyn, Janelle's job is bringing in money. Mary's job is maintaining the household and kind of enforcing those rules. Christine's job is being the person who's the homemaker, dealing with the kids, the meals, the events, the special stuff like that. And Robyn's job, what makes her special, her power, was taking care of Cody. And that's where she's responsible for Cody. And this is her thing. So she's responsible for Cody's happiness. And that they were okay with that, but the wives weren't. Christine M had Christian M said, it wasn't Robyn, it was financial independence that gave them the push to leave. Without that, they'd still be sitting there miserable. I don't disagree with that. Because ultimately, I think that the show itself, as bad as the show has been in some parts for the Brown family, it was a blessing in other regards. Because had it not been for the show, then Robyn, when they came into the family, had Robyn not come into the family, they never would have been able to actually do the show. The show would have been as successful as it was. And without the show being as successful as it was, I don't think they ever would have generated the income that they would have gotten. The kids would have had the world experience that they had. And the women, frankly, wouldn't have had the ability to leave. Because there is a huge financial burden or barrier for the women to actually be able to extricate themselves from these types of families that I think, we often talk about on our respective channels, that the women are trapped. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's jacked up, but that's part of the polygamy propaganda program where they make this seem like it's a viable thing, because if you join the sister wife thing and you can get your own house, and if you decide to leave, you can take your house and your property and you can start your life over because you choose to be in this relationship. But many of the women and people who get into, the men too, you get involved with these polygamous relationships. Hell, when you going to leave when you got 20 kids? They'll kill you in child support.
Mm-hmm.
So you better stay. It's cheaper to keep them. So you better stay. So everybody is trapped,
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah.
So I think that that's there too. But did you have oh, okay? Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about with regard to this insane chapter?
In the same topic, the only thing I want to point out is when she talked about at Christmas time, she was sick at one point,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
leading up to the holiday, she somehow neglected to buy stocking stuffers for her own kids, but and didn't realize it until Christmas Eve.
Hmm.
But the adults already had it covered, like they knew. Like she said, I was horrified, but my sister wives had it covered. I sat there in awe as they produced everything that they needed to fill my children's stockings, like complete dependence on these
Right,
wives. The one thing she was told to do because she had no other job there was we all fill our own children's stockings. They have the exchange, but then each mom is responsible for their kids' stockings. And somehow she couldn't even pull that together and blames it though. It's not her fault. She was
right,
sick.
right,
She was
right.
sick.
It's not
And
on me.
therefore you can't think when you're sick or do anything apparently. And so, but then they had it covered. And I'm like, I don't, you know what? That story, I think you think that that's a great thing and you're trying to give them kudos. This looks really bad on you, Robyn. Like, have we
Right,
not all
right,
been there when we're sick as dogs, but you drag yourself out of bed because you got 3 young ones at home that are depending on you and you have to get through, and that one still has to get to preschool and that one still has to get to dance, no matter if you feel like death warmed over or not. Like things still
right,
happen. Christmas still happens no matter how sick you are in most households. But
right,
she
right,
she sat back so much that she didn't even get Christmas for her kids. It's
right,
crazy.
right. She could care less. And
Yeah.
even with that, wouldn't one of the benefits of you having all these people in your life, like that's one of the benefits to having a sister wife. Not only are you not lonely, but you have 3 helpers. So if you
Mhm.
know you aren't feeling well and you know they're going to the store, hey ladies, I know you going to the store. I don't feel well. When
Yeah.
you go, here's the money. Could you get my kids something to put in the stockings, please?
Mhm.
And I'm sure they would have did it. Was
Mhm.
jacked up, and it occurred to me as you were saying that. And again, this is dark side of the moon thinking. Um, how messed up because each of them, I'm sure they all had like a budget. So each one
Yeah.
of them say gets $500 to buy their kids whatever they're going to buy. If Robyn went out and each one of the wives they bought their kids their presents, and in part of their presents they also used some of that money to buy their stocking stuff.
Mm.
Robyn took that money and she bought all presents with her money, and it said, "Oh crap, guys, I don't have anything for fitting these stockings." There is a possibility because unless these women intuitively purchased things to go in that stocking, I can see a universe in which the women started pulling presents out of their kids' stockings to put into
Mhm.
Robyn, like donate from their kids' stockings to put into Robyn's kids' stockings so that you can fill it up so they have something to open or get
Yeah.
on Christmas Day.
Oh,
You
you have
know,
an
and it,
evil mind.
yeah, yeah, I know. I told it get dark. Sometimes it get dark, but
Dark.
yeah,
I could see it. I mean, I could see it because,
yeah,
like, how did they automatically have it? How
right,
it's Christmas
exactly,
Eve, nothing's open, but they
right,
magically had everything they needed to help her kids. So yeah, there goes Isabel's gift. There
right,
goes,
right.
yeah,
Oh, it's
poor
okay.
Peyton. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, because I can see in universe, especially Christine, I can say, "Oh, that's fine." I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
gotta have something to open up. So I tell you what, my kids each have 5 things in each one of their stockings. So I'll just take 2 things out of each one of their stockings. That'll leave them with 4, and then your kids can get some things, and then they'll have at least. We'll work it out, so
Yeah.
everybody will be even.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are obviously they aren't going to really think about it,
Right.
but I mean, holy smokes! Like if that's what happened, I mean, I would feel terrible if that's what happened. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know. Like I'm just playing around with it, and as I think about it, I would hate to think that she would do that. Like again, this is one of the things. Like I would hate to think that she would do that. But
Mm-hmm.
damn, like Because if you didn't spend the money, what happened to the money? Like, where did
Mm-hmm.
the money go? Because I know you guys all had, because that's how they kind of pretended like
Right.
they were doing the families. They would divide the money up, and
Right.
each one would get an allotment, like the grocery money. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if we were
Mm-hmm.
having a party, each one of the households had a party. You have a monthly responsible thing where you're this month you're responsible for your groceries, and
Mm-hmm.
you're sick and you can't go to the store. So I buy groceries and I'm feeding you and your kids out of my
Mm-hmm.
groceries, which is my grocery money. What happened to your grocery money? Because you didn't spend it. So
Mm-hmm.
where'd it go? And
No,
and I'm
it's a good point. And for her to point out
yeah,
that she didn't realize it until Christmas Eve, where could these extra presents have come from when
right,
nothing was open and available? And
right,
she didn't even say she was sick up till Christmas Eve. She just said she
right,
was
right,
sick, and then she forgot to get the presents because
right.
she was sick. And then it was Christmas Eve when she realized as they were stuffing the stockings, oh, I didn't get anything for my own kids.
Oh, but then at the same time, she's missed so sensitive that my kids can't even have disagreements with other kids
Right.
without me getting involved. Like that
Right.
person, I don't see that person forgetting their kids on Christmas. I just don't. Like, and that's part of this thing. And not to mention, like, it always kind of is in the back of my mind when I'm dealing with Robyn's situation.
Mm.
The whole idea or allegation, I'm calling it an allegation, that she has a shopping addiction. So giving somebody with any type of addiction extra money is always a bad idea.
Oh,
You know
that's
what I mean?
such a good point.
You know.
Such a good point because she was been according to David's relatives, his
Mhm.
family gave money to her to pay off all the bills when they found out, and Preston told them, like, we've got all this debt. She ran up all this debt. They gave him money, and then she took it and went and did
And
more. I'm
spent
like,
that
when you
money.
have
Yep.
that kind of an addiction that you'll take it from
Right.
your in-laws and not pay off the bills, like they're not gonna find out, and
Right.
then use it to go shopping. And then in this situation, like you said, if she was given $500, that was another pair of Tory Burch sandals that she could have
Right.
had at
Right.
that
Right.
point, or a new bag or something. Oh, totally, totally
Yeah.
can see that. That makes, I mean, it fits.
Right. Right. And that's the weird part about it is that I would hate to put that on her, but and even thinking about like Christmas time to a person who has a shopping addiction is like
Mm,
happy hour to an alcoholic. You know
mm,
what I mean? Like, there's
mhm,
no way if you have extra money and you're sitting there like, not only can I get the things that I want, but they're running 20% sales, clearance sales, buy BOGOs, buy one get
mhm,
ones. They running all kinds of different, and the lights are flashing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm
mhm.
just saying. Like, it's
You
just
know, it makes sense. It makes sense. It does.
yeah, and it's so much of this. Like, what are your closing thoughts about this chapter? Like this whole thing as we kind of wrap it up.
Well, let me read the very last sentence because
Okay.
I just wrote after it, this didn't age well. It says, while I plan, well, first of all, earlier in the paragraph, she says, I want it all. I'm
Mm,
very idealistic about love and marriage, and I want it all. And she goes on to say, while I plan never to leave the honeymoon phase of my marriage, I also imagine that I have these three women who will ultimately be my best friends forever. I just went, whew, talk about not aging
yeah.
well. That line. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't
Yeah.
even know if she's talking to Mary anymore.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So
But
it was just a perfect ending to this whole chapter because she's so out of touch throughout all of
right,
it. She's not understanding why people don't like her. She's not understanding why things she's doing is hurting people. She's like completely in her own world. She's not understanding why they don't want to take her
right,
emotional gifts into the family. She's trying to break what's going on with them already because they already have things established. So she's trying to like change things up. Um, and then she ends it by saying, but I really expect I'm going to stay in the honeymoon phase forever. And these three women, they're going to be my besties.
right, right.
No. These two things
Well,
do not go together.
right. One of these things is not like the other.
Mhm.
But,
That's
but
right.
there's a point too where you said like the honeymoon phase. I will always be in a honeymoon phase with Cody. That kind of supports the idea that she's there to take care. In her mind, she's there to take care of Cody, and
Yeah.
that directly flies or is contradictory to the thoughts and wishes and the understanding of the other women who thought that they were equal players as far as Cody's attention. So
Mm.
if you're there to strictly take care of Cody, then where does that leave? If you're Janelle, Christine, or Mary, where does that leave you? Like, I'm not
Mhm.
just here to pay the bills. Like, you know what I mean? Like, especially for like a Janelle or Christine, I'm not just here to watch your kids and cook your meals or go to work and bring you back money so that you can enjoy your girlfriend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I get that, and that's insanity to me. But
Mhm.
when I read through this chapter, like my thoughts on this chapter was it's the illusion of delusion. Like that, I kept thinking of that because she's so delusional, and this whole image that she's trying to put out to the rest of us that I'm an innocent person and I really have a good heart, because that's something that she even did in this season's look back episode, like where she talked about, people don't really know me because I'm such a good person, and they really just don't understand me after 18 seasons. They
Mhm.
don't really understand how awesome I am. They had me misunderstood. That's what this whole chapter was. It was,
Yeah.
you guys had me misunderstood because I'm such a good person. I'm emotionally available. I'm emotionally intelligent. I'm here. I'm innocent. When things go wrong, it's not my fault. It's always either Cody, TLC, one of the other sister wives just being jealous and mad at nothing because I'm not doing anything because I'm the innocent one. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what I got from this whole thing. It's like this whole thing was really read to me like a propaganda papers, like
Yeah.
where she was like, I know what you think you saw, but you didn't see what you saw. So I'm going to tell you what you saw.
Mhm.
This is what you're looking at. Like, what?
So true.
I don't think so. No, it is. Like,
Mhm.
I think you may be mistaken, Miss Robyn. But
I think
yeah,
so.
so I mean, overall, as an audience member to the show, a person who watches the show, I think that it's contradictory, heavily contradictory to a lot of what I've seen and what I understood about the show.
Mhm.
On the other side, as a content creator, I appreciate the bullshit because that gives me something to talk about.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I'm kind of torn in
Yeah.
that regard
Yeah.
because it's just so crazy. Like, this chapter was crazy. It was
It
crazy. Like
was.
all the
And
backhand
this
comments.
is only like 2/3 as long as Mary and Janelle's chapter. It's similar to Christine's, but in terms of length, I'm like, oh, it's a nice short chapter. I'm like, oh, every line. Are you
Right.
kidding me?
Chock, chock full of nuts is what it
Yep.
is.
Yep.
This thing is a Snickers bar. It's chock full of nuts.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree. It's because the other ones, I feel like even with the a lot of the stuff that she described, like I felt like with Christine and like Christine, Mary, and Janelle, it felt more like they were trying to tell you something. Whereas
Yeah.
with this particular chapter, I felt like she was trying to explain.
Yeah.
Like, let me explain to you what happened. You
Yeah.
misunderstood the dress stuff. Let me
Yeah.
explain to you what
Yeah.
happened. Let me explain to you what happened with why all the people trust me and all the, because even with the whole like intellect, what is it called, emotional intelligence, and the fact that
Mhm.
people were coming to her, and the fact that she solved a lot of her communication problems. That's
Mhm.
the value that she's supposed to bring to the family. So when you
Oh,
talk about value,
that's
that's the
true.
value that she brings to the family. Like, I
Yeah.
was a great communicator. I'm the family therapist. So
She
that's my
speaks
value.
Cody.
Right. And I know
Her
all their
value.
problems and their
Yeah.
issues, and I'm going to help them with them because
Mhm.
I'm the family therapist. And they
Mhm.
should all listen to me. And
Mhm.
that's, and like Janelle said, like she thinks she is,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Her
know,
value, her gift is a contributing force to the downfall of the family.
right. She might not be all to blame, but she's
No,
she's
that's
got a
a
heavy hand in it.
contributing force. Just a
Right,
contributing.
right.
But it's a
Yeah, no,
contributing.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I think that I think she gets a lot of heavy blame for it, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of different factors that go
Oh,
into
yeah.
why the family failed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we can overlook her contribution
Right.
to the family failing. And that's
Absolutely.
why, like, I think I'm on board with you. Like, she is a huge contributing factor. She's not the cause.
No.
And, the way Cody was going, and especially if the show would have taken off, and this is just my feeling, if the show would have taken off, they would have aired the show, and sans Robyn. Robyn's not on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the show would have taken off, then Cody would have found somebody else to spend his time and attention on. Like, I don't think that the OG3 represented to Cody the man that he was. Robyn represents to Cody the man that he wants to be. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't contribute, like, you can't compete with a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And Robyn represents Cody's dream of who he wants to be. He wants to be the guy with the pretty young wife who's paying all her bills, and he gets to be the macho man taking care of
Mm-hmm.
business. He couldn't be that thing for the OG3. He can't. He just can't be. He's the fun guy. He's the
Mm-hmm.
guy that you struggle with, and he's the normal guy that you thought was cute. But he's not the guy who came in it on his white horse as a white knight and saved you from the dragon. And he gets to be that with Rob, or at least Rob
Mm-hmm.
makes him feel like that.
Yeah.
So he just would have found somebody. I think he just would have found somebody else, and that's just my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. This family is amazing.
Yeah,
there's no two ways around it. It really
amazing.
it's this is I hate to say it, but this is good TV.
Right,
Horrible TV. Horrible. Let me be clear. Horrible.
right.
And yet, as content
Well,
creators, this makes for great TV.
right. Again, this is where I was when you said, like, oh, if they come to you and ask you about a reality show, this is what I'm looking at. Like, if they come to me and ask for a reality show, because they had people who could, like like I said, the one guy from My Five Wives, he seemed like a decent enough dude. Like, I really
Yeah.
didn't dig into him as much. He didn't
Yeah.
seem as creepy as a lot of the other guys that have Joe
Yeah.
Darker.
No, I
But he
agree.
didn't
I
seem
liked
as
him a lot. Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
right. He didn't seem as creepy. But there's a reason why that show didn't work because he did seem as creepy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so if they come to you, if reality people ever come to you and ask you to be on a reality show because they've heard about you, go home and do an inventory. Like, I'll call you right back.
That's right. That's right. Family meeting time.
But, yeah, right. You're right. But do you have anything coming up this weekend that we should look for this week that we should be looking forward to?
I have 3 things I'm working on. I'm working on
Okay.
part 2, where I had a sit down with my son and try to explain Sister Wives to him. And it just kind of came about because I was going to do sort of a general Sister Wives for people who haven't seen Sister Wives at all, but because it's so much in the news, if they wanted to jump in, let me kind of give you the history. But I sat
Right.
him down next to me and I just told him. So there's a lot of him just going,
Okay.
huh?
What the hell? What?
But it's cute. It's cute. So I did part 1, but I recorded the whole thing at one sitting. So that'll be coming out soon. And then I have 2 other ones that are sort of beginning. I've recorded my part of it, but there's going to be a decent amount of editing involved in those. So I don't know which one of the 3. They're a little bit shorter, so that might actually come out sooner. I'm not sure, but
Right.
things will come out this week. And then, of course, Thursday night we have our live of reading this book too. We're a few chapters ahead. I want to say very close to near the end. I think chapter 14, Janelle. So there's only 2 more chapters after this, and then Cody's, final words, of course.
The epilogue.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Of my own world. I have the greatness.
Yeah. What about you, James? What do you got going on?
I think I have the Sister Lives tomorrow with Amanda and Sarah, and then that's tomorrow at 7 at Eastern Standard Time, and then I will be releasing a video this week. I've been working on it. This one is about the unsung heroism of Christine, where I talk about her postpartum depression and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the family. So I try to make some salient points, but I'm trying to do it in a light manner. So it should be an
Mm-hmm.
interesting video to watch.
That'll
So
be
keep
great.
an eye out for that. So it should
Yeah.
be fun. Take it easy. Don't worry about it, guys. Take it easy. Take it light. It's cool.
Okay.
But that's all I. But before we go, I want to make sure I thank everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for
Thank you.
tuning in, hanging out with us.
Yes.
Thank you guys all, especially the moderators. Want to give a special shout out to Lynn Skinner, Rochelle J, Lizzie B in the house, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure I didn't miss anybody. Did you have anybody else? It was just Lynn Skinner.
I think Lynn Skinner was the only one here again. I didn't know. I wasn't looking at it the whole time, but I anytime I did look at it, I just saw Lynn. Lynn, if
Okay.
you saw anybody else, you can write it in and make sure you thank them for us, okay? Because
Right.
I think it was just Lynn today.
Okay. All right. Well, if we miss you, I apologize. We'll get you next time.
That's
We
right.
do a special shout out at the beginning.
Yes,
But
we did.
next week,
Thank you to all the mods. We really. Lynn Vaughn was here?
yeah.
Okay. Lynn Vaughn was here as well. Thank you, Lynn Vaughn.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. See, I just want to make sure we don't forget anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate everybody hanging out, being super chill in the chat. Hopefully, everybody had a good time. We try to keep it light, keep it fun, keep it moving, and keep it interesting, especially as we talk about the foolishness regarding the sister wives and becoming sister wives. We'll be back next week on Sunday. Are you coming back next week on Sunday? You be here, or are you busy?
I will be here next week on Sunday. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll be back again next
Yes.
Sunday. It's going to be awesome and amazing. So make sure you block that time out, 7 p.m. I'm James. That's been my take. I'm James. And
I'm Jenny. I thought you were going to say my take on reality. We're going to get it right by the last chapter.
There you go. There you go. You'll be like, last one. I'm trying to get, but I'm James. That's my take.
I'm Jenny from Senior Perspective.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Appreciate you. Make sure you take it easy. Tip your bartenders and your waitress staff on the way out. Have a good night, guys.